Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC round 10 of this 16 round series, and we are at the classic Spa-Francorchamps. By the classic Spa-Francorchamps, I don't of course mean the 16 or so kilometer long trek through hills and forests and past ditches and things like that. That would be a spectacle for sure, but it would be a little too silly, little too dangerous for GPVWC Super League. Instead, we're at the much more familiar circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps, which has been used since the 1980s, pretty much unchanged, with the exception of a few little tweaks to that chicane in the final sector. As you can see, it is nice and wet, just as we had it for the Super Lights race a couple of days ago, and also, of course, for the start of the Grand Prix that happened in real life. But unlike the Grand Prix, we are not expecting a rain delay here today. We're going straight into the action in the rain. Now, my name is Caitlin Penny. I'm joined, as always, by the broadcast director, Remco Zeeuw, bringing you the sights and sounds, but also Ed Hunter. Ed, this is going to really throw a spanner in the works for qualifying, because if it keeps getting wetter, surely the first laps are going to be the ones that matter. But if it dries out, who knows? We could see the last people across the line getting pole position, just like at Canada.
Yep, and I'm reminded of the Super Lights race here last year. We had a wet qualifying where it suddenly started to dry out at the end of the session, and I think they were all on inters maybe, or all the full wet, and everybody just got getting quicker and quicker to the point that everybody improved on their last lap, and I think about 8 or 9 different people set pole. It was very similar to the Super League race we had at Canada this year as well, where it was, of course, Maggio that took that pole position. And speaking of Maggio, he's not had a great deal of luck since finishing third at Canada, has he? Didn't get to start at Silverstone because he got disconnected before the race even started, and then he had another disconnection at the Nürburgring as well. But he is competing again today, so hopefully the connection in Italy holds together for the valet driver. But we have got quite a number of substitutes, and of course our reigning champion and championship leader by a very narrow margin, but he is still championship leader, and that is Jan Grankvist. He is absent today. We believe Sandeep Singh is on the schedule set to fill in for him, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on, whether he fares as well as Jake Dennehan did, filling in that seat in the last race as well. But yeah, for Loic Moynier, who finished second to Dennehan very narrowly last time at the Nürburgring, he will sense a big opportunity here to take home not just a big haul of points, but just 2 more points, and that would be in the championship lead as well.
Yeah, so obviously the Super Venturi seat is one that we're waiting to see. Jukka-Pekka Laulu is on the server, but we do not yet have a teammate for Jukka-Pekka Laulu. I expect that Sandeep Singh is probably doing an R&D test session, which is why he's not here. There you see the championship standings. You can see Jan Grankvist right at the top, but only by 2 points. And with his continued absence today, it looks like Loic Moynier has a fantastic opportunity to take the championship lead. Shimon Frelich also theoretically has a chance of leading the championship at the end of the day, but I don't think he really expects that, and I don't think he's really thinking about that. I think today is very much about Loic Moynier and how many points he can get over Jan Grankvist, so he can build that advantage for when the Super Venturi driver inevitably returns at the next round. Fourth in the championship is Tom Stevens, then it's Maciej Winnick, Jarl Tyen, who drove a fantastic race last time out, the absent Matthew Williams, then Carlos Martin, Tomasz Vok, and Alessandro Maggio. Those are the top 10 in the drivers' standings. In terms of the team standings, THR are currently leading that by 13 points over Super Venturi, TOP Esports, Holland Racing Team, and Adonis Engineering. And all of those teams really close. The team's championship still anyone's game, and that means it's very important to see how well Jan Grankvist's stand-in will do today, if indeed they make it into the qualifying session, because they are still absent. Just a couple of little updates for you in terms of drivers. There are 3 drivers on the grid this year, on the grid today, that haven't yet driven a race this year. 2 of which I'm relatively familiar with. We've got Robin Merling and Daniel Scott, both of whom have driven races in Super Lights this year. Daniel Scott with a best result of 13th, which he has achieved twice, and Robin Merling with a best result of 7th place, which he achieved way back at the opening round in Australia. I'm afraid the website is currently down, so I'm not sure if either of them have started a Super League race before, or if this is indeed their debut. I do apologise if I am forgetting their previous races, but I'm afraid I don't know. The other driver, and a real wild card, is Green Stripes Racing's Aaron Vasquez. Now, Aaron Vasquez, or should I say Vasquez with the, I believe, Spanish pronunciation, is a driver who we were just talking about, Ed, and I don't think any of us in the commentary box now have ever actually heard of him before, let alone see him race. So it's impressive that he's managed to turn up and get himself a Super League seat straight away, and I believe this is his first race in GPVWC, unless I've missed him in the Academy Series, for example, or something like that. But I don't know that name, and I'm afraid to say I can't tell you much more than that, Ed.
Yeah, and he would be our 4th Spaniard on the grid, of course. We got Vasquez, Marquinez at Spark, Soltero, Epic Racing, a lot of mid-season sub-drivers, Xavi Ross at Adonis, and then Carlos Martin at TOP. So actually, and Sergio Fletcher too. So I guess that technically he is our 5th, actually, if I learn to count Spaniards properly. I did get a D in GCSE Spanish, so I should know. Uno, dos, tres, Cuatro Cinco, I think so. As we see Moynier just letting the rear absolutely hang out through Paul Frere corner as he goes on the run into Blanchimont. Spa is a very different beast in the wet to what it is in the dry. Essentially, corners that in the dry are leisurely flat out affairs where the downforce kicks in, plenty of grip, suddenly become events, essentially, and you find yourself a lot more busy at the steering wheel, and it's sort of a white-knuckled ride for a lot of these drivers. As we see the first initial times coming through now. Moynier only able to go 4th fastest, so 2.5 tenths off the pace as we see Stevens, Schluter, and Maggio have all gone a little bit faster. Vasquez on his first run is only a 10th behind our would-be championship leader as well, so that's very impressive. As here's Stefan Ruhl, who's got plenty of experience in these conditions, former champion here in Super League. He's set a purple first sector. Let's see as they run towards the line. I wonder how many of these cars. There we go. I suspect HRT may have set this car up for the rain because it's working incredibly well in that first and final sector here.
Indeed. Now, these first laps may be really, really important, especially if the rain keeps on coming. I'm afraid I can't tell you just looking at RaceView, the live timing site, if the rain is intensifying or not. It's not telling me the exact figure for the intensity of rain right now, as there's a big twitch for Jarl Tyen. Now, Jarl has struggled in qualifying recently. In fact, THR as a whole have struggled in qualifying, and Jarl himself has had a couple of accidents, but it doesn't really tend to end up mattering because he always seems to come through in the race somehow. And I think today he will be hoping for a little bit better as you see another twitch. He's quick, but he's on the ragged edge, and this could very easily go over the line here as he heads up through Blanchimont. You can see the spray being kicked up behind the car. That's going to make it really hard to follow the car in front later on, but you don't have to worry about this in the qualifying session because of course it is single car qualifying. You cannot see or interact with any other vehicles on your flying laps. Up to the line comes Jarl Tyen. This is looking promising despite the twitches. Across the line he goes, and it's 2nd place, just 0.02 of a second off of Stefan Ruhl. So Ruhl is currently P1, followed by Tyen, then Martin, Stevens, and Schluter. Schluter, who is in the pits and being followed in by Maciej Winnick. And here's a good lap from Xavi Rose coming out of the final corner. He was very impressive in the wet in Canada and goes 7th. So once again, a good strong showing for Xavi Rose in the Adonis engineering car that he stepped into to replace Matthew Williams when Matthew stepped down from the series.
Yep, so sadly for Williams, of course, because he actually had some really strong performances, but yeah, nonetheless, Xavi Ross is a more than capable replacement, as he's shown a lot of potential in his short 3 or 4 races that he's done since stepping into that Adonis. And filling in at Epic as well, if I'm not mistaken, Zaviros. He's sort of filling in for Ruben Machete, who also sort of ran out of substitute rounds. As we see, Mike Quint is another driver back in the Fraser Tartan Racing team. He was, of course, their reserve driver, competed at Istanbul and at Suzuka earlier this season, races that unfortunately he crashed out of both of them, so a little difficult to judge the reigning FS1 champion, but he's started to really up his performance in super lights with a couple of podiums here and there, and it's good to see him get another run out, but again, not the conditions you would have hoped for, because it's extremely punishing on any mistakes. Surprisingly, nobody has decked it into the barrier just yet. I'm sure Simon Frelich will still be having nightmares about his qualifying crash at the Nürburgring that left him with so much work to do in that particular race. Look at Tom Stevens here. He has gone purple of anybody in the middle sector, and the middle sector is the twistier one, where it's the first and final sector that have most of the straight line areas. So Stevens gains one position, gets ahead of Carlos Martin, but still it is Tyne and Rult on what looked like slightly different setups. You saw 3 temps lost by Stevens in that final sector as well. But yeah, it looks like Tyne has gone for more downforce, whereas Rult is a bit quicker down the straights in the first and final sector as well. As we see Geoffrey Fournier abandoning a lap that looked a little bit slow in the first sector there. So more time to find from the Frenchman.
Okay, Fournier into the pits. Not a great position so far, 27th. We know he can do a lot better than that. As we have a little bit of a lull in the action, I can tell you that the 2 cars that we are currently missing are one of the Edge Esports cars and one of the Super Venturis. Now, yes. Now, we know that the Super Venturi car will most likely be Sandeep Singh. At least that's the plan. That's what we got on our entry list. But the second Edge Esports car today is supposedly going to be Jannis Volburn, which is interesting because I haven't seen Jannis Volburn racing in Super League, I think, at all this year. He is a driver who has competed in Super League before, and he's actually done very, very well in previous years. I think he has 1 victory to his name, if I remember correctly, but definitely a few podiums at least. And yeah, it would be good to see him back, whatever the case. Anyway, this is a good lap from Chris Shepherd. You can see that second sector. I'm getting the picture that Rort's second sector wasn't great, because it seems like pretty much everyone is going up on his time in there, and that's not even a full tilt of the lap for Chris Shepherd there. He was coming back into the pits. Here's Loic Mounier leaving it all out on the exit of Speaker's Corner, also known as, I think it's officially known as the Jackie Xbox, but people still insist on calling it No Name for some reason, despite the fact it has at least 2 names. I will gripe about that every single time we come to Spa. Just 5 minutes left in the qualifying session now, so these laps are getting more and more important, especially as the times seem to still be tumbling. It doesn't appear that the track is too wet yet. Yeah, and Dylan Fisher's on a good lap.
Yep, this is really key. He goes a little bit deep into the bus stop chicane, but he might be able to get on the power and still get into the top 10 with this effort. Dylan Fisher, he's had a really tricky season so far. He gets pole position. Whoa! With 4.5 minutes left to go. Excellent lap from Dylan Fisher. He had gone fastest in a very, very wet free practice session leading up to the event. Actually, Laho goes fastest, and he'd been practicing for this a lot as well. As you can see, the track is getting quicker and quicker. I think we've gone from heavy rain to light rain here, and that's why the times are tumbling here, because I believe the track is sort of still full wet condition, but they are able to clear the spray just that little bit more quicker than it's laid down there. So we're going to see these final 4 minutes times just tumble and tumble for the entire field, and it's really anybody's guess who's going to come out on pole position here. But yeah, Mounier has gone yet faster, 154.282, and it's him on pole position from his countryman Alex Laho at the moment.
Great job from the youngsters. Mounier, Lahu, Maggio. What a lineup at the front of the grid so far, but I'm sure that that will continue to change. By the way, we have a quick update on the Super Venturi issue. Sandeep Singh says he will not be attending today because he injured himself yesterday playing football. He has damaged his foot and can't press the the brake pedal, and it doesn't appear that there will in fact be a replacement. So it looks as if we will be one car down, and crucially it's a Super Venturi, despite the fact they are fighting for the team's championship. We have, however, gained Yannis Volburn, so that means we will have at least 29 cars on the grid. A good lap just came in from Aaron Vasquez, up to 7th position in his Super League debut. Jarl Tyen out of the final corner now. This is looking strong. Up to the line. Does he go P1? He does indeed. Jarl Tyen to the top by just under 0.2 of a second. This is much more like it from the THR driver. Alessandro Maggio immediately responding, but I'm half expecting him to pull off into the pits here and set up for one final flying run, because it's about that point in the qualifying session. Meanwhile, I did see someone out just a minute ago on intermediate tyres as well, so expect to see Stein Hangrab there in 24th position. Expect to see a little bit of variation towards the end of this qualifying session, as some people try something that others may not dare to do. And I think that means the rain could be getting lighter now. Either that or he's just going for something completely different. As we watch Tom Stevens now, only in 14th position, but one lap can change everything in these qualifying sessions, Ed.
Yeah, and just another mention on Aaron Vasquez. As somebody in the YouTube chat, Joyella2006 has very correctly pointed out, Aaron Vasquez has an 11k I rating in iRacing, and it says is #1 in the world. I'm not sure if he is, but he certainly has won a lot of big events in iRacing. Most noticeably, last year he won the 2024 iRacing Raw B tier, and he's also competed in S tier and finished in the top 3 in a couple of different events as well. So he's won a lot of money out of iRacing, as Tom Stevens has a massive tank slapper out of Paul Frere. And yeah, that's a corner that you wouldn't normally expect in the dry anything to happen whatsoever. And that very nearly saw the end of Tom Stevens' qualifying session, but he might actually be able to improve, as so far he's stuck down in 15th position and his teammate is on provisional pole, 154.098. So this is all about being last over the line, surely, Caitlin, as the track conditions keep improving.
Indeed, I think it will be. So Tom Stevens goes up to 3rd position there, just 0.3 of a second behind his teammate, and it looks as if he's going for another push lap. He'd have pulled off if he wasn't, and I'm not surprised by that at all, because this late in the session, you cannot afford to be off the road. Here's Stein Hangraf on his inters, and he's lost a lot of time in that first sector. I think it's too early for that, but maybe the track will dry enough for him to go for one final flying lap. It's going to be close, actually, as to whether he gets back to the start line in time or not. I think he should just about do it.
Chris Shepherd up to 5th in the Red Archer.
Yeah. Great lap from Shepherd there. Red Archer need a result or two around this point in the series. So it's currently Tyen from Mounier, Stevens, LaHue and Shepherd, but continue to watch this leaderboard. The times could still tumble. Mark Schluter has had a decent first sector. Don't know how he's doing in the second just yet. We'll have to wait for that time. Right, Kilk's not too far off him in the other Red Archer car. Here is Schluter himself, coming up towards the, I think the second sector timing beam is quite late. It's one of the longest sectors of anywhere on the calendar. Of course, this is the longest track of anywhere on the calendar at just over 7 kilometers long. Ooh. And it's a good second sector. I think Schluter, whoa!
No, he's lost it!
Curb, and he spins! Mark Schluter spins the car around, and that's really disappointing for the Edge Esports driver, because I reckon he'd have been on for a top 5, at least provisionally top 5 with that qualifying lap. Here's Tom Stevens. He's down on his times. He has not been able to push again, but he's in the 3rd sector now, and if the track has continued to dry, then he should be able to take some time out of his 3rd sector. Up towards the line he goes. I don't think this is going to be good. I don't think it's going to be better. It is not. Tom Stevens stays 3rd as we speak. He's about 0.6 of a second off of the top time, about 0.3 of a second off his own best. And talking of best, you see that purple sector time there for Loic Mounier. Purple means the fastest of anyone, although if you look at that graphic, it only means that he's faster than the driver at the top of the standings in that sector. But that does mean he's taking time out of Jarl Tyen. Now into the campus corner he goes, up through the up towards Blanchimont. He's a few tenths down in that second sector. He may have made a mistake. Maybe the rain just picked up a little bit once again. Alessandro Maggio with a good sector. His first sector was pretty good as well. Second sector's blistering, actually. Now, it can be deceptive. The third sector requires quite low downforce compared to the rest of it. But in these conditions, I don't think that will matter as much. Into the braking zone he goes. Out through the final corner. Could be about to see some Maggio magic. Mwinett goes second. Soltero moves up. Dylan Fisher sixth. Where does Maggio go? P1! This could be pole. It's not.
Martin!
Carlos Martin goes to the top. Carlos Martin at the top by 400ths of a second. Completely out of the blue. We weren't even watching him at that point in time. Fastest third sector of anyone has just been set by Alex Lahoe. That's a good lap from him. And it looks as if that is the lot. So Martin should be first, followed by Maggio, Tyan and Winnick. What a fantastic end to qualifying. Just like in Canada, it was unpredictable right up until the very last moment, Ed. Great stuff.
Yeah, so Martin qualified on the front row, didn't he, at the Nürburgring, and now he's gone one better, taking his first pole position, I believe, in quite a while in Super League. Of course, with the website down, it'd be difficult to check because I think it was before I started commentating. But yeah, Alessandro Maggio thought he'd done enough there, missed out by 43 thousandths of a second. So there were two things happening. As I said, being last over the line was important, but also not burning out the full wet tyres, as we saw for poor Mark Schluter. Fell a bit foul at that. And Jarl Tyne as well, he peaked a little bit too early with just 2 minutes left to go in the session or so. He set that fastest lap, so he missed out on the better track conditions. But yeah, that's a very, very close top 5, maybe even top 6 or 7 here, and that sets us up beautifully for the race, Caitlin.
Yes, I think that may have actually been Carlos's first pole position in Super League. Obviously with the site down I can't verify that, but it might well have been. Carlos Martin takes pole, followed by Alessandro Maggio, Jarl Tyne, Mathieu Munich, Loic Mounier, Alex Lahoe, Tom Stevens, Dylan Fisher, Tomasz Fogg and Chris Shepherd. And there are going to be no grid penalties today, so what you see is what you get. Then it's Hygo Poom, Oscar Soltero, Yanis Volburn on his return to Super League, Aaron Vasquez on his debut in Super League, and thank you to the commenter who updated us on the fact that he is from iRacing. That is why I guess we don't know him, because myself, I have mainly commentated. I have commentated a little iRacing. I've mainly commentated R-Factor 2 and Assetto Corsa over the years. Chris Butcher is next, then it's Shimon Frelick. Not a great qualifying from Shimon, who, remember, is third in the championship and can theoretically take the championship lead today. Then it's Stefan Roth, Jakub Lalu, Mike Quint and Riot Kilk, the top 20. Stefan Rohr also not a great qualifying from the 2021 champion. Mark Schluter, P21 after that spin, then it's Xavi Rose, Sergio Fletcher, Daniel Scott, Robin Merling, Jeffrey Fournier, Stein Hangraf, Jorge Marquinez, Robin Panzer failed to set a lap. And then the one car we're missing is the second Super Venturi due to Jan Grankvist's absence and of course Sandeep Singh's injury. And I have to say, please get well soon, Sandeep. That really that's not good to hear, especially considering Sandeep, of course, is the championship leader in Formula Sprint 2 and is pushing to wrap up that championship as early as he can. But anyway, that's the qualifying order, Ed. We're now going to go to something that you yourself have made, which is, of course, the highlights reel from the last race that took place, the German Grand Prix. Here come the lights at last, and when they go out, we'll be underway for 60 laps of racing, and it is go! That looked like a decent start from Jake Dennehan, not too much wheel spin, but we have got Martin side by side with him for the lead, trying to outbrake him into turn 1. You see the sparks fly as he dips down, but Dennehan keeps the lead on the outside. So it's Dennehan from Martin, from Rohr, and Mounier. Remember, if Mounier wins today, he takes the championship lead. Now look at Mark Schluter trying to come around the outside, trying to fend off Maggio now.
Here comes Frelick then. He's going to easily get up the inside of Dylan Fisher into the Dunlop hairpin.
Here comes Frelick down the straight. He would have got such a good drive off the corner. He'll probably be using push to pass, and he goes through on Tom Stevens there, one of his main championship rivals. Stevens is going to fight back, stays on the inside line. Frelick goes round the outside and does get the move done.
This is what happened to Krop
As Moritz
he's
Krop
having
goes
another
to
go.
the outside of Dylan Fisher, tries again, touches him. Whoa, Fisher's going to have a trip through the grass now. Moritz says, I've done it once, now it's your turn. And here comes Sven Schubert up the inside, and once again, Moritz Krop does not want to let him through. Now Sven Schubert comes through on the inside, and he's going to be followed through by Pascal Pollens, goes through into 21st.
Here comes Philip Pushke using DRS to go up the inside of Chris Shepherd for 14th position.
Let's not forget, it's also Philip Pushke's home race.
Relic has immediately died into the pits then after 10 laps of racing. So
Alex Laho pits, as does Xavi Rose. So we do have two drivers in from that crucial top 15. Jorge Marquez follows them in as well. This would potentially be even more aggressive, and it might indicate a three
but he's ahead of Simon. He's ahead of Simon crucially.
He is. And that's hard tyres for Maggio, so drivers running a little bit longer here. I still think it's probably a two-stop strategy.
And Frelix past Laho into the first corner. There he is. And he's got Milnek, who's come out just in front of him. Yep.
And that's a big spin, and is that... Goodness me.
Xavi Ross.
And it's Xavi Rose. And it's a triple spin as he rejoins the race and into the pits now. And that looked like Carlos Martin. So Martin picks from second, Mounier pits from third, Fournier pits from fourth, and Denahan stays out.
As here we go side by side, that's surely that's Maggio trying to go around the outside of Jeffrey Fournier. We're absolutely hanging out, and somehow he finds a way to clear the Epic Racing car.
This could be action stations now for Jake Denahan. He comes into the pits, and it's going to be close. It's going to be very close on pit exit. Here comes Denahan, and he does go through. So Carlos Martin takes the net lead of the race. Yep. So Martin and Mounier have both jumped Jake Denahan.
Martin up to P4 overall as Mounier now is all over the back of Denahan and getting badly held up at the chicane. Oh no, he's actually ahead of Denahan. That's Lalu that was really all over the place, sorry. Lalu going into the pits now. Laho in trouble. So he's behind Fletcher, I believe. And this is what happens going into Coca-Cola. Is he a little too early on the power? It's a bit twitchy, too far over the curb, and looks to have saved it, but then backs it into the wall.
Meanwhile, that's Brock getting past Denahan up the inside into turn one.
Carlos has got to find a way through quickly. You see the two THRs making hay in the background. Martin up the inside into the Vidal chicane, and Mounier too. Schubert very much opened the door and led them both through there.
And Maggio's out. What has happened to Alessandro Maggio?
And this is not done the same thing as Laho, has he?
This is where Laho had his instant. No. Oh no, this will be a disconnection, I think, because he's... There we go, and he disappears. And we'll see what happens here down the start-finish straight. I think this is advantage Roll with that slipstream. Denahan should go with him. I think they'll both pass Sven Schubert down into turn one. And Denahan is forced to settle in behind Stefan Roll.
As Clayaltan knows, now is the ideal moment to strike. So this could be a shorter stint on the hards, and Stevens immediately responds to it. Oh, let's look at what Stevens has come out into. My goodness, that's Chris Shepherd and Xavi Ross.
So Winnick up into fifth, and this is Tom Stevens touching wheels with Xavi Rose as he goes round the outside now into turn three. There's a long way around, but that turns into the inside. This corner, which is deceptively fast, actually. You do that corner pretty much flat. Here's Jorge Marquez running in 16th position with front row seats and a wide, and over the curbs goes Chris Shepherd. Keeps it out. Oh, doesn't keep it out the barriers. Big hit into the wall. You'll notice here on the replay, and I saw this happen in real time, he dipped the wheels into the grass as he braked. He was fighting there with the Adonis, and there you can see him try to turn in with his right-hand wheels on the grass. His left-hand wheels had more grip than his right. His car went sideways, and unfortunately at that point you have no control. Down the start-finish straight they go. A big dose of DRS from Jake Denahan. He goes to the right-hand side of his former rival Stefan Roth, and current rival, I guess you could say, and does get the move done into turn one. And now you see Loic Mounier going past Carlos Martin with the slipstream, with the DRS, potentially with some push to pass, and he does get the move done there into turn one. Loic Mounier leads the race. Stefan Roll into the pits. This could kick off the second pit window. Shimon Froelich has now gone through up the inside of Xavi Rose into the chicane. So Denahan takes the lead back as Moynier and Martin both pit.
As there, Sergio Fletcher is overwhelmed by the fresh tyres of Loic Moynier. Anyway, Loic Moynier catching up to the back of Pushke. Pushke again leaves the apex all wide open for Moynier to slot that spark through. And there we see Martin picking off Fletcher in the background simultaneously. We see Rot diving up the inside of Fletcher now.
Shimon Frelick round the outside as Sven Schubert gets up into 14th position. Nicely done. Up to the final corner. Whoa! And someone else was backwards there, and it's Mark Schluter. Oh no, Mark Schluter, who was doing such a good job in this race, who was in the top 5, who was challenging for the podium, has had a spin, and that's going to really cost him as he comes into the pits now. And now Jarl Tyen does get past Oscar Soltero up into the top 3. Loic Mounier on the back of Tom Stevens, looks to do the same, takes a look to the outside, cut back to the inside, touches him. There's wheel-to-wheel contact. They're still going to be side by side, neck and neck. Through the left-handers. Stevens will have the shorter line. Mounier will have the inside line if he holds on for the next corner.
Oh.
He does. They touch side pods now. Stevens goes wide. Mounier gets it done.
Yeah, he really had to stick that one out. Tom was not doing him any favours whatsoever. But let's ride on board with Moynier, going the more circuitous route, as you say, nearly locked wheels a couple of times with Stevens. Did actually do so on the entry there for turn 5 and 6, as we see Carlos Martin clearing Philip Pushke at the Vidal chicane finally.
Stefan Rot there up the inside of Philip Pushke also goes through. Stefan Rot still very much in contention for a podium here today. Shimon Frelick in contention for a strong result in the top 10. He's up into P11 now after passing Tomasz Vok.
Denahan now pits, and he's followed swiftly by Geoffrey Fournier, so Jarl Tyen inherits the lead for the time being. Moynier up to second.
Here comes Geoffrey Fournier approaching Tomasz Vok up the inside, and a straightforward move into the chicane. And look at Tom Stevens going defensive here. Martin just about finds a gap and goes over the grass to make it stick. Really good move into turn 1 there. Carlos Martin, expertly done.
Soltero, he is actually 4 laps ago switched back to the soft tyre. Purple first sector, unsurprisingly, having got the DRS past his teammate Fournier, who left the door open for him.
So Soltero coming up towards the chicane. There's a little bit of a run up through here. Gets a really good exit actually. And by the overspeed, I think he was probably using push to pass, and Soltero does go through on Schubert. And of course, Soltero will get away on this. Whoa, and a big spin for Fournier. Loops the car around, goes onto the grass. And I'll tell you what that was. That was a sudden change of direction with the DRS wide open, causing the car to get unsettled. Shimon Frelick comes in for his last stop. And Martin pits, and someone else followed him in. And it was Stefan Rot, so both of those drivers in. And in comes Mounier. And Tom Stevens pits as well. And Mounier takes off the pit speed limiter, exits, and is ahead of Carlos Martin, just about. It's very, very close there.
Tyen in the pits now, so that means Denahan is going to take the lead.
Geoffrey Fournier now up the inside of Sven Schubert, goes through into 6th position. And on a track like this where it's difficult, and Rot does get through on Fournier. Good move there. Rot with slightly fresher tyres was able to push on and get the move done. Stevens now will be the next person to attack Fournier, and I think that this will be pretty straightforward now as he gets the DRS, gets a double tow from both Fournier and Rot up ahead, and Stevens now is going to gain 6th position. Makes it on the brakes, nicely done, gets it stopped in time. And look here at Maciej Winnick going past Mark Schluter here for P8. Will of course do.
Whoa, Tyen's round!
What a disaster! We're going to see a replay on board with the THR driver, and an uncharacteristic mistake on the exit of the Dunlop hairpin, which has been the bane of so many drivers here. It was as soon as he touched the curb, the car just jinked to the left. And look at Tom Stevens up the inside now of Stefan Rot, and he gets through in the final stages of the race.
Yep, there we go. Look at this. Schubert taps the back of Sergio Fletcher as they both try and lap Sama Kanani into the first corner. Schubert now tries to go around the outside of the valet, and they lock wheels. They touch each other, and Fletcher just about holds on to that one, but it's Schubert up to P13 on his fresh soft tyres. Now
here's Tomasz Vok going round the outside of Sergio Fletcher and just about runs it wide. Oh my goodness, and goes around the outside? Surely not. How did he have so much pace there? That was incredible. Keeps it up the inside. Tomasz Vok still has an opportunity, but it looks as if Fletcher will now gain it back, going into the S's. Loic Meunier's gap looks set to come in by another second. As look at Soltero. It looks like there's a little fight going on actually between him and Fournier because he's just passed him later on in the race.
Back through again, I think. Oh, yellows in the first
okay.
sector as Pushke and Frelick come to blows.
All right.
That was what gave Pushke the run with the DRS. Got up the inside. Frelick turned from the outside and bumped across him.
We're watching Carlos Martin now. Whoa, that was close with Falkenhayn. And look at Jarl Tyen.
Oh.
What an opportunistic move up the inside. Nearly slammed into the back of Falkenhayn as they went through, but made it stick nonetheless. And what a move that was from Jarl Tyen. That was like Senna and Mansell at Hungary all of those years ago, passing the back marker. Now we're going down the straight onto the last lap of the race. Martin trying to come back at him. We'll take a look to the inside. We've seen him make that move before going over the grass. This time he forces Tyen wide and they'll come back. He'll cut back. He's on the outside. He'll try the cutback maneuver again on the exit of turn 2. Oh, and gets cut off. But what a final lap we have had. And Jake Dennehan, after all this time, has proven that he still has it. Out to the final corner, dominant Dennehan proves why he belongs at the top of Super League, at the top of the GPVWC ladder, and wins the German Grand Prix like he never left.
Oh.
Jake is the victor. Loic Meunier, second place for the second race running. Then it's Jarl Tyen third, Carlos Martin fourth, Tom Stevens fifth. Then Stefan Roll and Matej Winnick. A good day for Holland Racing Team, and that's important because of how close it still is for the team's championship. Oscar Soltero and Jeffrey Fournier get Epic Racing Team a double top 10. Then it's Philip Pushke in top 10. He returns to the top as well, and it's a day for returning champions as Philip Pushke cements 10th position late on in the race. Shimon Frelick P11, then Sven Schubert, Mark Schluter. What an unfortunate result for him after that spin and that drop down the order. Then it's Tomasz Vok and Jorge Martinez in the points. Once again, the rookie. Hello, welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps for round 10 of the GPVWC Championship of 2025. We are just a few minutes away now from the start of the race. The drivers are finishing their warm-up session, and as you can see, or as you've just seen, the last race at the Nürburgring was really quite different to this. It was much, much drier. And of course, we had Jake Dennehan right at the front of the grid. Jake is not here today. That was always likely to be a one-off outing. But we do have some other drivers who are quite notable. I've been looking up Aaron Vasquez in our break just now. And as we were told in the YouTube chat earlier on by Joey La 2006, Vasquez is indeed the #1 rated iRacer in the world in both sports cars and Formula cars. Very, very impressive stuff indeed. And we have to wonder where Green Stripe actually found him and how they managed to get him to come all the way to rFactor 2 for some GPWC racing. But anyway, I guess that's a story for another time. One thing that has stayed the same from the Nürburgring is that at the very top of the times, we have Chris Shepherd. Now, he qualified second at the Nürburgring, putting himself on the front
Carlos
row
Martin?
grid.
I mean, Shepherd has done very well as well, but it's Carlos.
Sorry,
I think
I meant Carlos Martin. I don't know why I said Chris Shepherd, but yeah, that was a good qualifying from Chris as well. Carlos Martin qualified second last time out, putting him on the front row. And today he has qualified on pole position for what I think is his first pole position in GPWC Super League. Unfortunately, the website is still down, so in terms of past results and things, we're unfortunately unable to check.
Stopped, so we're in intermediate conditions here. Will anybody gamble on the dries? Because we don't know if it's going to rain again, but this looks like it could dry quite quickly as the formation lap begins.
Okay, well, it's too wet for dries now. You can see everyone is either on inters or full wets. I think everyone pretty much on intermediates there, but we'll get to that in a second. Mike Quint looks to be starting from the pit lane, so he either missed the timer or he has done that as a gamble. Alright, let's take a look at the starting order, and this is exactly how they qualified because of course there are no penalties. Carlos Martin P1, Alessandro Maggio P2, then Jarl Tyen and Matej Winnick, the consistently high qualifying. Maciej Winnick from Poland and Holland Racing Team. Then it's Loic Mounier, Alex Lahoe, Tom Stevens and Dylan Fisher. Keep your eye on Loic Mounier because he of course can take the championship lead today and probably will. Tomasz Vok is P9, then it's Chris Shepherd, Hygo Poom and Oscar Soltero, who came into the series quite late on and has already impressed, but is yet to have a really high finish that he's promised time and time again. Yanis Volben and Aaron Vasquez, a whole row of the grid who we did not expect to see when waking up this morning, and then Chris Butcher and Stefan Roll, Jakub Lalu, Mike Quint and Riot Kilk. We missed Shimon Frelich, I should say, who had a pretty tough qualifying in his bid for the championship lead. Then it's Mark Schluter, Xavi Rose, Sergio Fletcher and Daniel Scott. Daniel Scott more regular in Super Lights, as is Robin Merling, the two Stax drivers. Then it's Jeffrey Fournier, Stein Hangraf and Jorge Marquinez, who is Loic Mounier's teammate but has not had a similarly high qualifying result. And then Robin Pansar will round out the grid of 29 cars, meaning there is one car missing, and as we explained earlier, that is the second Super Venturi car, as Jan Grankvist is on holiday and thus missing this round, and his replacement, who was set to be Sandeep Singh, unfortunately injured his foot while playing football yesterday. Get well soon, Sandeep, but unfortunately that means that Super Venturi are down a car, which could prove absolutely costly to their championship charge. Now, the fact that the rain has stopped does not necessarily mean that this is going to be a drying race. It means that we're likely to see the track dry a bit at the start, but there's nothing to say that it won't come back to the drivers who have started with a slightly wetter setup if it rains again. Remco, could we very quickly see what tyres everyone is starting on? I would like to see if there's anyone starting on the... Yeah, but I'd like to see if there's anyone going for the full wet tyres. I don't think there is. Yeah, if you look at that, everyone on the intermediate tyre, the only exception being Mike Quint starting from the pits, who we can't, of course, see the tyre compound of, but I expect that he will switch to inters as soon as he leaves the pit lane. And here they go, lining up on the grid. Ed, we're about to see 5 red lights illuminate at the front of the grid, and when they extinguish, we'll be underway for 44 laps of racing here at the classic Spa-Francorchamps, a real driver's favourite and one of my favourites as well to watch as a fan. Not sure we can see the lights from here, they're at least not showing up on our screen, but any second now, here they come. There's a slight, I saw someone rolling slightly forwards on the starting line, and it's a slow start for Maggio. Maggio gets off the line really poorly there, I'm afraid, and that means that Carlos Martin has gone to the lead. There's Mike Quint on the exit of the pits, waiting to join the pack. Looks like it's Carlos Martin leading from Jarl Tyen and Loic Mounier, so ignore the timing screen, that is clearly not accurate, as Alessandro Maggio had a really poor start and dropped back through the field, and indeed we don't have half the grid a whole lap down as is being shown. Loic Mounier now side by side with Jarl Tyen for that second place there, around the outside into Lecombe, and he gets it done. Good move from Loic Mounier on the opening lap of the race, and the two THRs are now right together as Alex Lahoe goes side by side with Dylan Fisher in the mix, back in the pack and down towards the Brussels hairpin, the Bruxelles hairpin as it's called in on the track maps.
Flemish, yeah.
In Flemish, yep. Tomasz Vok out through Speaker's Corner down towards Pouhon. This corner is treacherous in the rain because if you touch the white lines midway through the corner, if you touch the curbs, the car will almost definitely spin around a full 360 degrees. Looks as if everyone has got away with it for now. Look at that. Oh, a little touch there. Shimon Frelich giving him a sniff from behind, and Chris Butcher there trying to get involved as well. Good save from Hygo Poom not to get tipped into a complete spin there, and he continues on his way. Still in, I think he's in 13th position. It's hard to tell, of course, because Maggio is still being shown as the leader, despite having dropped right to the back of the pack. I do not know what's going on at all there with Alessandro Maggio. I did see a yellow flag earlier in the lap, so there's a chance that he was just dropped right to the tail. and we'll have to wait and see if the timing screen updates itself. Something really bizarre has happened there with Alessandro Maggio, both in terms of the live timing and indeed in terms of what happened to him at the start. So we're watching Maggio now coming up through Eau Rouge Radion, and this is where the yellow flags showed. So he's behind Tomasz Vok. In the background, this car's getting... And then he teleports back to the grid? What is going on here? He teleports back to the grid and then starts the race again. And somehow he has been given a lap over the opposition, according to the live timing screen. Goodness me.
Unfortunately, there's the clear explanation for this is Italian internet for Maggio acting up again. In a way that bizarrely seems to benefit him. I believe the time screen may have sorted itself out now, but we are seeing early stops for Aaron Vasquez and Robin Mulling then in the stacks. So they've gone into the pits. So Maggio is now showing 37 seconds behind everybody else. But that's cruel, like nothing he could really have done. And yeah, Vasquez and Mulling are both out. I believe they may have crashed and spun off while we were watching those replays then. But yeah, that's our accurate picture now. You see Carlos Martin leading from Moynier, and then the two THRs starting to fight each other. Tyan under pressure from his teammate Stevens, who, remember, is still leading him in that Drivers' Championship.
That's one of the strangest things I've ever seen there from Alessandro Maggio, teleporting back to the grid due to what we can only assume is a very strange internet rubber banding situation. As you said, 2 retirements at the end of the first lap. There was another brief yellow flag out there, so I think there may have been an accident. And unfortunately, well, we were very hyped to have the #1 iRating driver on our hands here with Aaron Vasquez. His race has lasted no more than 1 lap. Robin Mulling also out of the race, unfortunately. Here is Aaron Vasquez. I thought I saw a wing in the background. Yeah, his wing's already missing. So he's had contact with someone at the first corner, going on to the second lap of the race by the look of it. Is he going to run into the back of the car in front of him? Lalu and Fletcher side by side. Oh! And then a spin. And is that Xavi Rose? We saw
one of the Adonis's. It must be.
It's Xavi Rose. Yep, so Rose has had a spin, and then the rest of the pack checking up has caused Aaron Vasquez to lose his front wing. I don't think Mulling was involved in this unless... And Lalu's lost his wing as well, so that's crucial for the Super Venturi driver, the only Super Venturi driver in the race, who has also lost his front wing and will have to pit at the end of this lap. Now here's what happened to Mulling. They're going 3 wide. Now this is also a result of that check-up, that chain reaction that we saw. Oh my goodness, and Vasquez has run straight into him there. A huge crash. And I wonder whether Vasquez didn't know that he'd lost his front wing. I have to assume that if Vasquez had known he'd have lost that front downforce, he wouldn't have piled into Radion at such a rate of knots. He had absolutely no control and smashed into the back of Robin Mulling. Mulling completely the innocent victim, and I'm afraid to say that was completely on Aaron Vasquez.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing that's happened out of that is that Fletcher, Lalu and Ross have all pit, and Lalu and Ross have pit for new front wings. Fletcher has been the first to go for the dry tyres here. Him and Ross have put softs on. Lalu, I believe, has put the mediums on. So this is going to be fascinating to see their lap times. In the first sector, Fletcher sets a 36.9. So obviously with the pit stop, a slower exit from La Source, it'll be interesting to see how the times shake out. If you can see the dry line emerging, we don't think the rain is coming back. So this is interesting. Oh, Tyan has let Stevens through despite setting the fastest lap last time around. That's because Tyan's pitting for dries. So everybody's getting the call up now.
So the dry line has appeared. I thought this was way too early. You can see the spray in the pit lane. Of course, the track's where the racing actually takes place, but even so, you've got to get there. Tyan's going to go onto slick tyres. I noticed that Lalu has gone onto hard tyres. Getting some heat into those is going to be an absolute nightmare. It's going to be like driving on ice out there as Jarl Tyan escapes the pits. And he's on hard tyres as well. So we'll see how that helps him if he gets up to speed quickly. And... well, I guess he's trying to get on it before it becomes a trend and see if he can benefit from the track at this early stage. Of course, hard tyres, they go long here. You remember Russell and Hamilton last year at the Grand Prix going pretty much all of the race on one set of tyres and doing that one-stop strategy that ended up paying off so well, at least in the case of Lewis Hamilton. Whether they can do 40 laps.
Also did a one-stop here. in the dry in 2023 to take his first victory in a Super
Yeah,
League.
didn't he?
But,
Whether they can do 40 laps it's doubt.
and that's assuming it doesn't rain again as well, which is
That is
quite
true.
a gamble.
That is true.
Look at this then. Stevens, now that he's been released, has started to catch up to Martin and Moynier. He's setting purple sectors here. So this is crunch time. Do they react to Tyen and pit and risk coming out behind him? Or do they stay out longer and hope that it rains again?
I think the drivers who have gone onto hard tyres don't expect it to rain again. If you expect it to rain soon, you will probably go onto soft tyres. Well, you will probably try to stay out for as long as you can as Mounier comes in. And was that Stevens following him as well? It was. And Mathieu Winnick. So pretty much all of the front runners coming in, except for Carlos Martin, who has stayed out once again, as has Thomas Vock, and Yannis Vulburn now goes up into third position. But yeah, you wouldn't go onto hard tyres if you didn't expect to be able to run a long time, because otherwise you've just wasted some of that time that you could have benefited from going onto soft tyres. We got a brief yellow tyre with a big twitch as he gets onto the damp stuff, gets it back onto the dry line as quickly as he can and continues, and he does get ahead of, well, he was already ahead of Lahu. Lahu, I think, has jumped Mathieu Winnick in all of this. That's impressive from Alex Lahu. And he is on medium tyres, I think, judging by the sight of them.
It could just be that Road to Formula put a lot of development into their pit stop time compared to HRT there. I think that would be the explanation, unless Milnek got held up on release. But this is really mixed up the order there, as Lahu just about survives that moment there. Frelick, though, desperately trying to find his way into the points, as there's that Hygo Poom that's cut the chicane at Lecom, and that's going to allow Frelick to close on the back of him. Let's compare these sector times then. Tyen 31.4, but all of the leaders, Martin 31.3, Fischer 30.9, Ruhl 31.1, Schluter 31.0. So those on the inters are still really quick in that first sector. So we are going to see those that have taken the pit early are going to get on top of these tyres a bit sooner than those who've just got onto them.
Winnick just passed Jarl Tyen there. Tyen, of course, has come out behind Lahu, Stevens, Mounier. I think, did he just get passed by Lahu as well? Okay, well,
I think Lahu came out of the pits ahead of him, so yeah.
Okay, so that was a jump then. Bit of a leapfrog scenario in the pits as Carlos Martin now comes in from the race lead and Vogt comes in from third. So Yannis Vulburn will lead the race for Edge Esports. Rolt goes through to second, Schluter goes through into third. Edge not splitting their strategies, keeping their cars out late. Like Mounier across the line now gaining positions as he does so, because of course it's much easier to pass stationary cars.
He does.
And he does jump Carlos. Loic Mounier, by going onto the slick tyres 1 lap sooner, has jumped through past Carlos Martin into what could end up being the effective race lead. Remember, Mounier started 5th on the grid and Martin started 1st on the grid, so Mounier has played this absolutely blindingly well to go through. I think there might be a slight split in terms of strategies though. Carlos Martin, Dylan Fischer, side by side with Hygo Poom, and it looks as if Shimon Frelick is involved as well. A little bit of a touch with Frelick as the two AKA Hero cars go side by side with the TOP. Frelick nearly runs him out of road, and they just about managed to get through in one piece. Oscar Soltero now up the inside, and he won't get the dry line that he would have needed, but Shimon Frelick, Dylan Fischer is pushed wide once again and holds on to that inside line. Soltero gets run out of road. That would be an illegal overtake if he made it stick. Does make it stick, and it looks like the software's let him get away with it. That's interesting. I passed someone in a similar way in the FS2 race the other day, and the software made me give the place back. But I guess Oscar Soltero must have been just within the limits, and Dylan Fischer down to 16th position as we watch the current battle for the lead between Vulburn and Ruhl. But I think they will both peel into the pits now. As they do, there's no real...
I'm Caitlin.
I was going to say, there's no real reason to stay out on inters unless you think it's going to rain again imminently, but Mark Schluter has stayed out and will take the race lead.
Yeah, I mean, it's rolling the dice, and after qualifying down in P18, he sort of feels he's got to do that. Fischer, you could see, by just staying out the extra lap, he's fallen out of like 7th or 8th position and down into 16th out of the points there, as he's now trying to hold off Jeffrey Fournier. So we are going to see Ruel and Woolburn and Handgraf all emerge in the middle of this sort of pack just outside the top 20. Is that Soltero going very, very wide out of La Source there, but he gets going again, still in a 14th position, so that promotes Fischer into the points, but it looks like Fournier is sizing up as Milnek clears Alex Lahoe for what is now 5th position down the Kemmel Straight then. So we are seeing all that straight line speed finally come into play now that we transition into dry conditions, and the HRT, as I suspected, set up very, very well there as Milnek sets the fastest lap of the race and the fastest first sector of the race on this particular lap as well. So Milnek could be a big, big threat now as he closes that 3.7 second gap to Stevens ahead of him. And Jarl Tyne, actually by going early, he's sort of lost out here and been leapfrogged by Milnek and Lahoe.
Now, I'm interested with Yannis Woolburn because I thought he was going to drop much further down than he did. Remember, he qualified 13th, and then he was running pretty much in the same position right up until his stop. And I was expecting him to drop further back past drivers who had pitted earlier for those slick tyres, but I guess Woolburn was just absolutely wringing the neck of that car on the inters coming into the pits. He's managed to come out in 10th position, actually getting an overcut at the same time that others have got an undercut. So very well played from Yannis Woolburn, just through brute force by the look of it, but he's got Stefan Rohr all over his tail now. And Rohr will line him up coming towards the bus stop, takes a look to the outside, it's very wet out there, and Woolburn does maintain that position as into the pits now comes Schluter. So Mounier will once again lead. At the end of the pit window, it's Mounier at the front, followed by Martin, Stevens, Munich and Lahoe. I would say that the biggest winners from that pit window have to be Mounier, Lahoe and Woolburn, actually, who are in first, 5th and 9th positions respectively, and have all gained handsomely from where they were before this whole thing started up. And I would say the biggest losers are, admittedly, I wouldn't say Carlos Martin has been a big loser, but he has, of course, lost the race lead. As you see, Stefan Rohr attacking Woolburn and going through. And at the same time, Tomasz Vok has got past Jarl Tyne, I think. Very good stuff from Tomasz Vok. I think Jarl Tyne has been one driver who has lost a little bit from this pit window, being jumped by several drivers. He's now down into 7th position, Ed.
The other thing that might be happening here, Caitlin, is that, like us, a lot of these drivers might have been expecting a race that started off in wet conditions for a lot longer than it has, and they might have set their cars up accordingly to try and get that group position in qualifying. As here's a replay of Vac picking off Jarl Tyne. It wouldn't surprise me that THR is running a little bit more rear wing. There's just enough space to stick it on the racing line around the outside. You can see Chris Shepherd now fancies a go at Tyne 2 as we're seeing all yellow flags out there. I think Milnek is in trouble.
Okay, that would be a big shame. Maciej Winnick had qualified so well, but he is continuing to drop down the order. What a shame for Maciej Winnick in the HRT. He's still on the road, so he's still going. I think he's had a spin. Whether someone else was involved in that or not, I don't know. I'm afraid Daniel Scott has now retired from this race as well. I think that is unrelated. I don't think they were together on the track.
It was about 8:10 and Lahoe was Milnek, so that puts Alex Lahoe into the top 4. Happy days for the Frenchman, who now sets the fastest lap himself, 1:48.2, immediately beaten by Vac, his teammate. So Road to Formula have set themselves really well for the drive. But here's Milnek then. Does he just have a spin into Stavilo, dip it into the gravel? Oh, a little bit too much speed. Yeah. The rear goes round before the front, and Milnek was just pushing that a little bit too hard to catch the 3-second margin to Tom Stevens, and he has to sort of awkwardly find a gap to get back into the race here without taking anybody out, which he just about managed.
Here's Daniel Scott. This is his accident. But yeah, that was a horrible place for Maciej Winnick to spin, and he was lucky to get that thing pointed in the right direction again. Just two. Oh, that's a huge impact for Daniel Scott. That would have hurt. And I hope he took his hands off the wheel, because that's the kind of impact that snaps your wheel around if you have a direct drive. And the car bursts into flames, as do his hopes of any result today. But yeah, as for Maciej Winnick, I think he was unsettled slightly coming into the corner. You see that big curb on the outside. There's a similar one heading down to this next corner, which is where Maciej spun. And I think he hit it a bit too heavily and got unsettled as he turned the car in, and the rear just couldn't keep up with what he was asking it to do. Meanwhile, the gap between Mounier and Martin is actually coming out a little more. He's not quite out of DRS range just yet, for when DRS is enabled, DRS may already have been enabled, actually. It's getting to that stage. And here's Chris Shepherd all over the back of Jarl Tyne. Chris Shepherd is driving a fantastic race so far. Red Archer have not had results like this. And with Jarl Tyne continuing to fade in these early stages, presumably having quite a high downforce setup, Chris Shepherd is really starting to come alive now, is attacking, and is approaching 6th position as it stands as we pass 10 laps into this race, Ed.
Yeah, and crucially, according to RaceView, it started raining again. Maybe a little bit of drizzle so far, but that will be frustrating for everybody that's pit onto the hard tyres like the Jarl Tyne. But for Chris Shepherd on the softs, he wasn't planning to stay long on this stint anyway, and now he's got a brilliant run on the THR. Tyne tries to get back to the racing line, but the DRS is wide open. Oh, little bit of contact there. Chris Shepherd wasn't quite as ahead as I think he'd assumed he would be by the time he got to the corner, but nevertheless up into P6, and he is absolutely flying as Chris Shepherd, so Thomas Vack may well be looking over his shoulder. But yeah, if this rain intensifies, we could see everybody switch back to the Inters in the next couple of laps.
Red Archer's best result of the season so far has been a 9th place finish. That contact was a little suspect. I've just watched it back on the live stream because I haven't seen it yet, or I didn't see it in real time. I was watching something else, but unfortunately that was a little bit on the limit there for Chris Shepherd. I'm afraid we've lost Alessandro Maggio now. Now his race was already rather ruined by that awful start, and of course that lag spike that took him back to the grid in that really bizarre incident that we still have no explanation for. But unfortunately he has now called it a day and retired from the race. So 25 cars remain. It has actually been, I hate to say it, as Stefan Roll comes around the outside, gets on the grass, little twitch, goes off the road and rejoins. And he's going to... Oh, my goodness, that was close with Szymon Frelick there. I thought he was going to rejoin.
Martin takes the lead.
And yes, and Carlos Martin has taken the lead. Now, that's come completely out of the blue because Munier was leading by a second. So Munier
let him through deliberately to try and get the toe here.
That can't be right. He was a second. There must have been something else that happened here. But Loic Munier has now gone back through. So if your theory holds...
Stevens!
Tom Stevens goes off. Tom Stevens goes on the grass. And he's had a huge crash. Stevens will be out of the race for sure. My goodness, what happened there? Stevens had a massive double toe from Munier and Martin. He was gaining. Sorry?
Is that a double somersault, not just the toe there?
Yeah, well, he had a double toe as he was gaining on Munier and Martin, and he had so much speed that he ended up nearly going 3 wide with them into Le Combe. But then as he tried to make the move, it all went wrong. Here we go on board with Tom Stevens. Whoa, he touches the back of Martin. Now, I think he will say that Martin moved over too late. I don't know if Martin will see it the same way. There was definitely room for Stevens to go side by side with him. Stevens did try to continue, in fairness to him, tried to get the car up and running again, but there was just too much damage, and you can see that front right tyre completely absent from the car. One of the biggest crashes that we've seen in GPVWC Super League, and unfortunately that is a retirement now for Tom Stevens. Now here's what happened. Oh, and it was a mistake from Munier. I know it must have been, or I knew it must have been. It was not a deliberate incident for Loic Munier. He simply made a mistake into turn 1, got the car sideways, which allowed Carlos Martin to go through. Munier got back on alongside him, slipstreamed him down the straight, did retake the lead. It reminds me of oh my goodness.
Woolburn side by side with is that Hygo there. And he's just going to lose out to the Estonian there. Hygo Poom. Oh, fishtails his way into P13. It has stopped raining, by the way. The only driver that did pit for Inters was Maciej Milnek, and we saw it spun off into the gravel. So he was gambling on it raining again. And it looks for the time being that gamble has once again backfired. So no luck for the Poles so far. As here comes Jarl Tyne going around the outside of Szymon Frelick. So is it starting to go away from the soft tyre runners now as the sun re-emerges over the clouds?
Yeah, I was going to say that that reminded me a little bit of 2008, where Lewis Hamilton had a quick spin at turn 1, got passed by Kimi Räikkönen, but because of the slipstream, by the end of the straight up to Le Combe, he was back through again. That, of course, was the first of the...
Martin wide!
Martin runs wide, yeah. ran wide over the curb and had to get out of the accelerator so as not to spin it. And that has cost him a second, over a second by the look of it. Meanwhile, Shimon Frelick now gets past Jarl Tyen further back. That's for 6th position as we speak. Would have been for 7th, but for Tom Stevens' retirement a few seconds ago. And I wonder what Tom Stevens makes of that. It would be interesting to talk to him about that incident and see what he makes of it. Here's Frelick's move on Tyen. Now Tyen's a long way ahead, so did he make a mistake here as well? He did, and it's exactly the same mistake. Whoa! Exactly the same mistake that Martin just made. And Shimon was able to dive up the inside. There was a little bit of contact, but I think that was fair. I think if Shimon
had to get on the grass to avoid him there as well.
Yeah, he did.
As we now see, Tyen is really starting to struggle here on those hard tyres, and he's just been gobbled up now. We've got Ruhl, Fournier, Soltero, and Butcher isn't too far behind. Even you can see in the background in the Fraser Tartan as well, who's now into P11. So Mark Schluter, by the way, despite making that gamble, despite coming out outside the top 20, is now in P12 on his medium tyres, as Moynier now sets a purple final sector there. So yeah, that mistake for Carlos Mod is he did seem to sacrifice the lead here, as that's a double toe as Tyen tries to get back past Simon Frelick, and he's going to drag Stefan Ruhl with him, as well as the rain has re-emerged as they arrive at La Source.
3 wide there, Tyen getting past Ruhl and Frelick. Fantastic stuff there. Up into 6th position, Frelick losing 2 places in all of that. Meanwhile, I'm afraid to say we have lost Jukka-Pekka Lalu from this race. So drama as Super Venturi, 2nd in the team's championship, will not be scoring any points today. And that leaves the door wide open for the likes of TOP and THR and maybe even some other teams further down to really...
It would open it up for THR if Stevens was still in the race, but he's not. They've all got to rely on Jarl Tyen here. The team that's really taking advantage is Rota Formula, running 3rd and 4th. Laho and Vac have run very, very clean races, and Laho isn't too far off Carlos now either in that battle for 2nd position there. So Martin needs to be careful here. He doesn't end up sacrificing a place on the podium to Alex Laho, as Moynier now starting to stretch his legs. But now, could this rain shower last a bit longer than the previous one? And will Maciej Milnek down in 21st, as long as he's not burnt out the Inters, he'll just be praying for it to absolutely bucket down a little bit here.
Yeah, I think he will as well. Of course, most of the drivers still out there on slick tyres at this point in time. Yellow flag in Sector 2. That's so worrying, especially in these conditions. As we cross the line once again, watching Shimon Frelick. Now, Frelick, of course, should be faster than Tyen in these conditions, at least until it starts raining heavier. And he did pass Tyen once before. He'll be disappointed that Jarl was able to get back past him and get a car between them. And now, of course, Oscar Soltero is in the mix, all over the back of him. Goes to the right, slipstreams his way through, and you can see DRS is still available at this point in the race. Tyen there fending off Ruhl into the corner, and the DRS slams shut as they get onto the brakes. There you go. Any more rain than this and it would probably be disabled again. I don't think DRS was enabled at the start of this race. There's a certain threshold that they get over where that stops being available. Dylan Fisher there, P14, just ahead of Yannis Vorburn. I think he's just passed Vorburn, hasn't he? Because Vorburn he was up into the top 10 after his pit stop. And we're going to see a replay of... This looks like real time to me. Yeah, here's a replay. And this is Jukka-Pekka Lalu's retirement. So Lalu down into the Jackie X box. Oh, bonk. Into the barriers, loses his front wing. And loses the car. He's out of the race. Alessandro Maggio is also out. Looks as if he pulled up in the pit lane. Indeed he did. So Alessandro Maggio becomes another retirement after a torrid day, not entirely of his own making. Really disappointing stuff for Alessandro Maggio, who qualified so well. And then has Shimon Frelick had something happen to him here? As we go... Oh, big twitch and a great save, actually. Is he going to lose a place? He does lose a place to the 2nd epic racer. Is that Fournier?
It must be, yes, because Soltero was already ahead.
Well, he does lose the place, but to be honest, he did very well not to lose the car. Great control there from Shimon Frelick. And it was Jeffrey Fournier who's now up into 9th position. And it's worth noting, actually, that Fournier is up, I think, 17 places from his starting position. Really, yeah, there we go, 17 places. Stefan Roll now up 11 places, having passed Jarl Tyen. But yeah, really good attacking drives from the likes of Fournier and Stefan Roll at this point in time.
Yeah, as we see yellow in the first sector, but important to note, one of the fastest drivers on track is Milnek on the Inters now, as we see, Chris Butcher dropping down the field. So clearly the lead Fraser Tartan in the race up until this point has hit troubles. That's bad luck for the Englishman, as there he has actually continued. You can just see his teammate Mike Quint in the foreground with Maciej Milnek on those Inters, now in between the two Fraser Tartans there. So this will be really, really interesting to see if Milnek can keep outpacing those on the dries around him. He might be able to gain ground, but he is 35.7 seconds off the lead here. But this is all about survival. Look how much Butcher is struggling, though, as the hards are completely losing temperature. Shepard is past Laho for P4 there. So Alex Laho has lost a place to his teammate Vac and to Chris Shepard now as well. Shepard is absolutely flying on those softs, but is everybody just going to be struggling to keep it on track now as the rain clearly falling a lot heavier than before?
It's definitely getting heavier. Look at Alex Laho now around the outside, but he gets onto the damp patch, runs wide. We saw was it Jannis Vorburn doing that earlier on? Well, someone did and ran wide. It reminded me of Sebastian Vettel in 2010, getting onto a damp patch there and spinning into the side of Jensen Button. That's a little bit of a throwback, but I recently rewatched the highlights of that race. Shimon Frelick is in the pits, presumably for intermediate tyres, and it's got to be about the right time for that. Here's Stein Hangraf. Whoa, spinning around and saving it. Good stuff. Admittedly, it was quite a low-speed slide, so he was just able to back it down even further and then continue from where he was. But still, good car control there from Stein Hangraf. Shimon Frelick is on intermediate tyres. Chris Butcher and Sergio Fletcher also pit now. Chris Butcher, one of the higher-ups in the Fraser Tartan and THR squad, also on hand to act as a reserve driver on days such as today. That was a big twitch there from Shimon Frelick.
Yeah, Handgraf will get the toe. Of course, he's still in the dry tyres. DRS wide open. Is he going to try and go around the outside? Crucially, he doesn't. And that's really key for Simon Frelick's race here as the lead driver on intermediate tyres in these conditions. If you look at Milnek, he's been lapping a tenth faster than the leaders. We're getting to the crossover point here, Caitlin, and this is where it's going to be like driving on ice for everybody on the dry tyres. There's nearly tapping in the rear. Panzer is just really slow at the apex. That was what caught out Handgraf at the bus stop chicane there. He's just spinning almost in avoidance there, and Frelick is going to try and just go clean up the inside of him through Pujon. He had a lot of confidence to pull that one off, and that's the difference between the inters and the dries in these conditions. Surely everybody's going to dive into the pits now, seeing Frelick's pace here.
In the background, that's Winnick on Kilk. And a big slide for Meunier from the race lead. And he stays out. Goodness me. It looks as if he's struggling at this point, sliding the car around. It's like go-karting out there. Here's Tomasz Vok in 3rd place, doing a great job with Shepard in 4th and Laho in 5th. Cars coming into the pits in the background. Was that Soltero? Yep, Soltero pits from 8th position. I've also noticed that Xavi Rose is out of the race. Big shame for Xavi. Of course, a driver who qualifies really, really well, but unfortunately is lacking the results that pace would maybe imply. Up the inside. Here comes Winnick. Winnick really starting to gain on those intermediate tyres that he stayed out on for so long. Stein Hangraf staying out, goes side by side with him. Winnick gets up the inside and doesn't really have to worry too much about where the dry line is here. Meanwhile, Hangraf only has one line through the corner, and that's only going to go one way, with Maciej Winnick getting through into 14th position. Hangraf may be able to slipstream him down the straight once again, but I think the Inters are the tyres to be on at this point in time.
Yeah, you say he pitted on him ages ago. It was only 6 laps ago, actually, for Milnek. So at Spa, 6 laps does feel a lot longer than it otherwise normally would. As we see, here's a replay of what the fate that befell Xavi Ross. He's dipped it just like we saw Milnek, but with much higher speed and much more devastating consequences for his car there. So another calamitous collision with the wall for Xavi Ross, and that sadly is turning into a bit of a theme of his appearances so far this season. But yeah, he did at least score a couple of points at Nürburgring, if memory serves correctly. As now we cut back to Chris Shepherd pulling away from Alex Laho and challenging Thomas Vack for a podium. This is the Chris Shepherd that we used to see for Red Archer, that was able to score so many giant killing feats, wasn't it, Caitlin? And we've not seen that for quite a while. He had a terrible season last year with Edge, and it's great to see him in these conditions capitalizing. They're not far away from Carlos Martin, only about 3.6 seconds, so we can't rule Shepherd out of this one yet. Moynier controlling things just about at the front, but even he is struggling to keep it on track. As we see now, Jeffrey Fournier is pitting. I think Shepherd on those softs, surely he's got to come in soon anyway, because the softs, it's been on them 13 laps. They're going to start to lose their effectiveness, even if it stays dry here at this rate.
I'm amazed that the top 8 are staying out once again. I think they must think it's just a quick shower here, and it might well be. Oscar Soltero is now back up into the top 10 after his stop. We'll keep an eye on him and his pace, because he is, of course, I think the top driver on the intermediate tire at this point in time.
He's got past Frelick, I think. So Frelick is all over the back of him, so 6/10.
Okay, Mounier leads from Martin and Wok, but for how long? We saw a couple of drivers in the pits in the background, and
Fournier went for softs. That's interesting.
Really? So Fournier just pitted and he's gone for soft tyres?
Unless Race View is lying to me, that seems to be his decision, Caitlin. So he thinks this rain isn't going to last.
That's strange. At this point in time, you've got to react to what the weather is telling you, surely. Like,
yeah, well, you say, I remember the race we did here in Superlights last year. We had this weird situation where it was raining, but the dry line wasn't going away because it wasn't raining hard enough. And it was Jan Dragoon, I think, that went for soft tyres and gained a huge amount of places. Got P4, I think, from near the back of the grid as a result of that decision, where he just undercut a load of people because he was just so much faster while everybody else was trying to get the Inters to last. So Fournier maybe's got that in the back of his mind and is trying to pull a similar blinder here, but it depends if this rain intensity, because it's still light rain at the moment. It's not quite intensified like I think some of us thought it would, because it did get heavier for a couple of laps and then died down a little bit again. But the drizzle is still there as we look at the train of cars being held up by Thomas Vack in the background, Shepherd, Loho, Ruelt, Tyne, and then Schluter, I think, a couple of seconds behind them.
The Super Lights race, by the way, was a lot of fun in these conditions. Quite, well, I say quite similar conditions. It depends on what part of the race.
Sandeep Singh, who's of course not here, and Alex Laho was second on that occasion, or frustratingly in his opinion, because he made the wrong call at the end to go for the full wet tyres rather than trying to get the Inters to last.
Are you talking about last year's race? I'm talking about this year's Super
Oh,
Lights
this
race.
is one. Oh yeah, well that one was great too, but I didn't see as much of that.
Okay. Oh, you were talking about last year's race with Jan Dragoon. Yeah, I was thinking I didn't remember that happening, but no, you're absolutely right. No, the Super Lights race was great fun. Of course, Norbert Jakob winning that one.
It was,
from
yes.
Jose Soriano. Not Sandeep Singh, who of course was busy breaking his foot apparently. But anyway, here's Stefan Rott running in 6th position, chasing down Alex Laho, and with Jarl Tyne back on his tail. It's amazing how much Tyne seemed to fade when the track was getting drier. But I think if it continues to rain, this could play right back into his hands. I think that it's pretty self-explanatory, or pretty evident that he has a full wet setup with high downforce, possibly a higher ride height than other cars are using. I saw that he was running the curbs quite well earlier on as well. Used that curb that has caught out Maciej Munich and Xavi Rose and didn't have the same result, of course. But that may just be confirmation bias. We're watching for something that we expect to see. Stefan Rott, though, still, I think he's definitely had a good race so far. Like I've told, what was that?
Yeah, I was just looking at Fournier. He is lapping, he said a 47.5 in the middle sector. Admittedly, a lot of the Inter front runners are going slightly quicker than him. But yeah, their pace is just so much quicker than the leaders at the moment. 1 minute 53.5 for Moynier, 53.2 for Martin, 53.0 for Vack. And then you've got 1 minute 50 for Soltero, 51 for Frelick. And 1 minute 50.3 for Fournier last lap. So You're just getting so much time on the fresh tyres. We see Laho trying to fend off Rural, who now opens the door for Jarl Time potentially as they just ran out of road. Even with the DRS, they can't get alongside each other, and it stopped raining. So now all of those Inter runners are in trouble. Has Jeffrey Fournier pulled an absolute blinder here?
I think he may have done. You make a good point that it's not intermediate tyres that are giving the drivers the advantage here. It's having fresh tyres, because Fournier is doing exactly the same lap times that that the other drivers on fresh tyres are doing. The drivers on Inters, such as Oscar Soltero. But of course, they're about 3 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds faster than the race leaders at this point in time. So yes, I think Fournier is on the right tyres to be on at this point, having pitted for slick tyres, and he's just using them to his advantage. The disadvantage, of course, is that he's definitely going to have to make another pit stop. But then again, if the rain keeps switching on and off like this, I think most drivers are probably going to have to make another pit stop anyway.
If he's gaining 3 seconds a lap on the leaders, he's going to fall into Monier's pit window soon, because he's 24 seconds off the lead at the moment. And yeah, Monier's actually was slightly caught by Martin, who's now just a second behind him at the present moment. So this is looking very, very tense as Laho now is closing back on the rear of Chris Shepherd's Red Archer here. And how long can Shepherd get those softs to last? He's done 16 laps on them so far. Shepherd is relying a bit on the slipstream from back in front of him, who's slowly pulling away. So there's an opportunity here for Laho to get ahead. But yeah, all these front runners now hoping that the Inters all have to pit again as Right Kilk comes in. I think he senses he needs to get back on the dry tyres and off the Inters near the back of the field. As here comes Laho! Oh, he almost has to come to a dead stop there, right behind Shepherd down the straight. He just caught him way too early, but the DRS luckily enables Laho through into P4.
Driving from Alex Laho there. If he'd concentrated a little bit less, he'd have been over the top of Chris Shepherd, or right through him maybe. In the background as well, Jarl Tyen has got up past Stefan Ruhl into P6, so a double move on the straight there. This is a great race so far from Road to Formula Racing. They've been going for similar strategy calls all the way through, and here's Riot Kilk now. I noticed a brief yellow flag, and this is presumably why. Oh my goodness, gets a little bit of grass, a little bit of curb, into the wall. Oh, front left tyre gone. And I think he'll be out of the race. Yep, he's out of the race. So, Riot Kilk there. Now, I know it may seem obvious. He lost his front left tyre, and I said I think he'll be out of the race. We have seen some drivers somehow crawl even more damaged cars back to the pits. But it's, to be honest, at that point, it's not worth it anymore. You're out. Very much so, if you've been into the wall like that. And we now only have 21 cars remaining in this race, Ed.
Yeah, Chris Shepherd is starting to really lose pace here. As you can see, Jarl Tyen coasting up to the back of him here. So the softs, after 17 laps of driving, they are done. And in comes Chris Shepherd for a fresh set of tyres here. And yeah, you can tell Soltero and Frelick are really desperately hoping that it rains again here, because they reacted to the conditions and then the conditions changed again, whereas those who stuck it out on the hards are really pulling the benefit here. It'll be interesting to see if Fournier, who's just set a 149.5, fastest of anybody out there at the moment, whether he's right behind Simon Frelick by about 8 tenths now. If he can clear Frelick and Soltero quickly, then he could be a big factor in how things play out for the front runners.
By the way, I'd very quickly, I saw, oh, Dylan Fisher's in the pits. I was going to say, I saw someone peel off. I'd like to very quickly say hello to Lewis McGlade, who's in the YouTube chat. We were just talking about you, actually, because were you commentating Formula E at the weekend? Ed was there, and I was saying how you used to race in GPVWC. Good memories of racing against you back in my very first sim race. But anyway, back to the action. Jeffrey Fournier gets past Shimon Frelick up into 9th position. Just remembered, actually, I think Lewis McGlade won my first ever sim race back in the ITC. Would have been the French round 2017. So, yeah, a little bit of trivia for you there. But anyway, back to the action for real. Loic Mounier still fending off Carlos Martin for the lead. Brief yellow flag in sector 2, and Soltero's dropping. Is it Oscar Soltero? And he's out. Oscar Soltero, who was the top driver on intermediate tyres, having made that call very early, has retired from the race. Whether he crashed, whether he disconnected, I presume it was a crash actually, because we saw the yellow flags first. And we're going to see a replay. It's down into Pouhon, one of the fastest, most dangerous corners on the track. Was it Daniel Scott had a massive crash here earlier on
He
in the
tried to
race.
save it. Couldn't save
And
it.
wallop. Yeah, that'll do it. That's the rear end. Rather quartered.
Alex Laho in the pits.
So 20 cars remaining, and as you say, Alex Laho pits from what was 4th position, so that puts Tyen back up to the tail of Wok. And who was that coming in? Maciej Winnick there, off of some relatively old intermediate tyres. Used them to his advantage in that little rain shower we just had, and now will potentially go back onto slick tyres.
Crucially, Laho, I think, has come out just ahead of Chris Shepherd there. So Shepherd not quite able to get the undercut. Fournier sets the fastest lap of the race, 147.7. He is 3 to 4 seconds lap faster than everybody else ahead of him in the top 7 then, as Tyen now sets the fastest first sector of the race then. So the second THR has really come alive after struggling in the earlier part of the race. He is now catching our 2 leaders here as Moynier under a lot of pressure here. This is make up your mind time. Do you pit now and try and get maybe a set of hards to the end or mediums to the end and just hope it doesn't rain again? Or do you risk it on the softs like Jeffrey Fournier has done?
Well, we're at the halfway point in this race now, just after the halfway point in this race, and it's still anyone's game up in front. You can see how close Mounier and Martin are. And when I say anyone's game, I really mean that, because a well-timed strategy call on a day like today can bring someone right back into the action, even if you're many positions down and you're not involved in this top 2 scuffle. Martin is just about within DRS range of Mounier, is holding on to it, and that's important because as the track gets drier, the DRS will be active for longer. Look, Mounier, still, his lap times are improving. You can tell the track's getting drier because he's in the 149s. It's just a few laps ago that we were talking about 150s being the laps to beat. Jeffrey Fournier has the fastest lap of the race set last time around with a 147.7. Doesn't quite top that this time around, although he's close. So I think that shows that the track right now is the driest that it's been all day long, despite having only just dried out in the first place. And Martin there, 0.3 of a second, only 0.3 behind Mounier as they get into the braking zone. And Sergio Fletcher comes into the pits in the background.
Yeah, I think I saw Handgraf lose the place there, and Vrolt got past Thomas Vack for 4th as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting developments there. The problem for Alex Laho now, he's going to very, very quickly catch Simon Frelich on the inters. So like we saw Fournier do, he's got to make a move without losing too much time to Simon. Simon is just gambling at this point because it's sort of a sunk cost fallacy. He's just got to hope it rains again. As here comes the move from Stefan Vrolt. Fairly straightforward, round the outside with DRS, and Thomas Vack knew there wasn't any chance of fighting that one, so he tucks in behind and looks to follow Ruhr around for the rest of the lap then. So you do sense conditions starting to go a little bit away from road to Formula, but with Laho on fresh tyres, there's every chance he could undercut a couple of the drivers he's fighting with here, as Martin now still within 0.7 of Loic Moynier here, but we see Ruhr has passed Tyen for 3rd as well. Ruhr on an absolute flyer here at the moment.
I was going to say, that happened while we were watching the replay, and Tyen was a good few tenths ahead. And wide! Ruhr runs off the road as Tyen comes into the pits. I'm going to assume that Ruhr... That's okay, Remco just apologising to us for cutting away from that. I'm going to assume that he rejoined the road safely. Now here's the mistake that Tyen made, runs right through the grass, and will somehow rejoin facing the right direction. Whoa! Right in front of Stefan Roll, who takes evasive action. Reminds me of a similar situation that happened in the 2008 Belgian Grand Prix with Raikkonen and Hamilton having to go different sides of Nico Rosberg down there, and then Hamilton going for a spin. Yeah, that was a classic race. Jarl Tyen now out of the pits in 8th position, and Ruhr will hold on to 3rd then. He's got a big, quite decent gap back to Mark Schluter now. Schluter recovering after that poor qualifying. And Martin once again closer to Mounier at the end of the straight. And
Laho's passed Frelich, by the way. So yeah, of course, that train of cars behind Frelich, Frelich's lap times 150.0. So yeah, he's about 3 seconds slower than everybody else on the dry tyres around him. So yeah, Tyen, of course, has lost out to Laho and Fournier, but he's still in a decent position, and crucially, Vack pit behind him and has just got past Chris Shepherd. So Shepherd is the driver that's lost out big time. because despite doing 17 laps on the softs, he's just not been quite as quick since switching to, I believe, the medium tyre here. But look at Carlos. He has not given up on challenging for the lead here, has he? He's gaining little by little, 10th by 10th on Loic Meunier and trying to force him into pitting earlier than he really wants to, or at least stealing track position here. So Meunier knows he has got to be inch perfect here, or Martin will just absolutely disappear off into the distance if he's not careful.
The fact that Jorge Marquinez is in the pits now means that Shimon Frelick will be the only driver, and there is Marquinez coming out of the pits, alongside his teammate Loic Meunier, who will get a mega slipstream. I don't think this was planned, but hey, if it was, then that's very well timed indeed. But yes, Shimon Frelick drops a couple of places there, I think, down into 8th place.
Tyne got past him, yep.
Tyne's got past him. Frelick's in the pits. I was going to say he's the only driver out there left on intermediate tyres, and that means that we're surely overdue a pit stop, and it has now happened. So everybody will be on the slick tyres from now until either the end of the race or next time it rains, whichever one comes first. Matching Winnick back up into 12th position as we talk as well, because Mike Quint is in the pits. Good to see Marquinez getting out of the way of the leaders nice and safely, not trying to hold up Carlos or any shenanigans like that, but he did give a nice dose of slipstream to his teammate Meunier, and like I said, very well timed if indeed that was timed.
Yep, so this chaotic race continues to develop in interesting ways then. Of course, all the inter tyres now switch to dries as Meunier is struggling to keep the mediums alive after 21 laps. They are really starting to feel the pain here. Whereas, oh, look at that massive twitch. And oh, surely he's lost the lead there as he gets all over the curb through Paul Frere. And Martin is going to have a mega run through Blanchimont here into the bus stop chicane. Meunier immediately gets defensive here from the TOP behind him. Will Carlos time the move up the inside here? No, he decides to wait for his better opportunity. And he's surely going to plan it for the Kemmel Straight, Caitlin.
Yeah, there was nowhere to go there for Carlos Martin. If he'd gone through, he'd have been forced off the road. And of course, he may well have then been slipstreamed anyway up through the next section as Royal comes into the pits in the background. But we continue to watch this battle for the lead because surely now it's going to change. Carlos Martin on the tail of Meunier needs to slipstream him right up through Orange Radion and down the straight. Watch him getting closer and closer. He'll use the push to pass. Does Meunier make a defensive move? He's too late to do so. Martin is going to go through into the race lead. And there we go. Meunier slots in behind. Well done, Carlos Martin, to get back through into the lead of the race. And that, of course, is where he qualified. Martin's race comes full circle. Yeah,
and annoyingly for Loic Meunier, he's now got his teammate Marquinez on fresh medium tyres all over the back of him, whereas Meunier's tyres are absolutely crying enough after 22 laps on those mediums now. Now he's lost the lead to Martin. Surely Spark will be considering pitting their lead hope in the championship here. Meunier, of course, doesn't have to win today to steal the points lead from Grankvist, but ideally he wants to take full advantage here. And yeah, Martin has reasserted himself as we see Frelick recovering, having pit for fresh mediums up the inside of Steinhangraf for P11. Now he's right behind Milnek and he's fastest in the first sector. Fastest lap so far in the race, by the way, Alex Laho, 146.6. As he's gotten, he's still 2.3 seconds ahead of Jarl Tyne and about 8 seconds behind Fournier, who we know is going to have to make an extra pit stop because he's nearly at the end of his second soft tyre stint here.
Double whammy for Steinhangraf there, getting passed by not just Frelick, but Mathieu Winnick as well, who is now back into the top 10 despite his spin earlier. And Loic does now come into the pits. As he said, he was on 20-plus old lap tyres, 20-plus lap old tyres, I should say, and comes into the pits. Ooh, runs over the pit equipment on the right-hand side, but just about stops in his box. He's lucky that the game registered that, to be honest. And escapes from the box now, comes back onto the track. Where will he be in relation to other cars? Will he have too much traffic on pit exit? Out onto the road he goes.
There's Laho.
And
there's
Laho.
Tyne.
And Tyne goes through. That's very important from Jarl Tyne, who has kind of jumped him, but then again, the strategies are really offset
here. It's a 3-lap undercut for Jarl Tyne then.
Yeah. Yeah, he has, hasn't he? So Tyne Yeah, I thought he pitted much earlier than that.
Oh, he's going to make the move immediately, Caden. Look at this. DRS to the outside, and he sweeps through. It's the heavy wings on Tyne that just stopped him from holding onto that position there. But yeah, luckily, Laho, there was just enough space behind him for that move to be made. And now Moynier has got to clear Laho pronto to try and get this undercut on Martin, as here goes Frelick, breezing his way past Milnek back into the top 10, crucially for him, trying to keep his own hopes of stealing the championship lead alive.
You know what I've only just noticed just now? Laho pitted just 2 laps before Tyne, who himself pitted only 3 laps before Mounier. Remco, could we see what tyres they're all on, if that's okay? What tyre compound they're on? Oh, it's a different tyre compound. Mounier is trying to go a long way on those mediums, but he's gone 20 laps on mediums before, hasn't he? So I think that is doable. I reckon they're all going to the end on this one last set of tyres. But the reason I'm bringing this up now is because Alex Laho could be in the net lead of the race here, depending on what happens with Carlos Martin, who now makes his pit stop. So Martin brings it in, he'll stop. It's also worth noting, of course, that Geoffrey Fournier is on 10-lap-old soft tyres. So he will probably have to stop again, but he is doing a blinding job out in front. Martin goes on to medium tyres, which again will probably be able to go to the end from here. There is Mounier. So Mounier has passed Martin. He's jumped him, as have both Laho and Tyne. I think Alex Laho is genuinely fighting Mounier and Tyne here for the eventual race win. What do you think, Ed?
I think it's possible, but look at the run Moynier's got here with the DRS. He pulls to the outside. Tyne is trying to follow, but look at that, immediately tucking him behind. That was very smart from Alex Laho to make sure Tyne had no chance of following him through round the outside. Crucially for Martin, though, he did get out ahead of Thomas Vack then, so he's really just got to clear Tyne and Laho, like we saw Moynier do. We know Fournier's coming in soon, and Schluter has done 21 laps on the hard tyre. I think Mark Schluter might try and get to the end, but he's being rapidly caught by over nearly a second a lap by Fournier behind him on the soft tyres. And yeah, we'll have to see what... and Moynier was a second faster in the first sector alone than both of them. And that's without the tow from Laho as well. Oh, no, he was with the tow from Laho. So that is a little bit artificial. But we'll have to see then. I don't think Schluter or Fournier are going to try and get to the end. Certainly not Geoffrey Fournier on those rapidly degrading softs.
Now, we were saying earlier on about this fight that Jarl Tyne was on a wet weather setup, but Owen McGorgy's just pointed out to me that he actually has one of the highest top speeds of any of the cars out here through the speed trap. Let's see if that... Well, he's backed out of that one. He was potentially close enough to launch a dive into the bus stop, but realistically, unless you're on the last lap, you don't want to do that, because then you'll just get slipstreamed all the way up. There's a flat-out section here from the exit of La Source all the way up to the braking zone at Le Combe. It's one of the longest flat-out sections in all of Grand Prix racing to this day, and Jarl Tyne, I think, will have a really good opportunity at getting past Alex Laho here. He'll bring Carlos Martin with him, as Martin will try to regain those positions that he lost by getting jumped in the pits. They're going to go, wow, and it's a double tow from Carlos Martin, who's going to go alongside Jarl Tyne into the corner. Tyne has the inside line. Does he make it? He's run wide. Tyne comes back at him. Martin runs off the road. Goodness me. So Tyne does get 4th position, Martin does get 5th, just about misses out on his opportunity to attack Tyne himself, and then Alex Laho drops back down into 6th position. So right as I get excited about Laho challenging for the race win, it's all starting to go away from him just a little bit. But don't forget, I think that whole bunch of cars can go to the end without stopping for the rest of the race. Jannis Voorburn there up into 13th position ahead of Dylan Fisher. But let's not forget, wow, Mark Schluter and Geoffrey Fournier up 20 places and 24 places from their starting position, respectively. Mark Schluter has been on his set of tyres for 22 laps. He's long overdue a pit stop, so that's partly why he's out in front. And Geoffrey Fournier running those soft tyres, just pushing lap after lap. And coming into the pits now, so Fournier does pit. We knew he would have to. And 14 laps to go. This could be another set of softs, actually, for Fournier to take him to the end. We know he's good on them. And to be honest, I think he'll still benefit from that stint that we've just seen him finish. Overshoots the box a little, but the game still registers it. And yes, I think it is another set of soft tyres for Geoffrey Fournier, and he will push. He'll do qualifying laps from here till the end of the race. And now look at Carlos Martin trying to line up Jarl Tyren up through Radion, up over the top. And now down the straight, he will open that DRS. He will use any push to pass that he feels necessary. And he will go through into third position in the race and restart his charge in catching up to the back of Loic Meunier, who he's fighting for this race win.
Yep, Schluter staying out. He could well be trying to get the hards just as long as they can go and maybe switch to the softs at the end of the race. Or alternative, he could be trying to get to the hards all the way to the end. But he is losing about 2 seconds a lap to Loic Meunier at the moment, and he's only 6 seconds ahead. Here we go, Dylan Fisher getting revenge with the DRS on Yannis Vulburn. And Fisher, who lost out in that early pit stop phase in the race by staying out longer on the inters, is now starting to slowly fight back along with his teammate Hugo Poom as they try and challenge for the top 10. And here comes Mike Quint, yet to finish a Super League race this season, passing Robin Pansar for P17. So Mike Quint is only about 7 seconds away from the final points playing position held by the sole remaining valet of Sergio Fletcher. And boy, do valet need that, given the bad luck they've had so far in the last couple of races, particularly for Maggio's. Schluter's rear tyres absolutely refusing to go through the bus stop chicane, but Schluter forces them to do so anyway. And yeah, they are rapidly falling apart here with 12 laps to go.
Mark Schluter leads Meunier by...
Look at that lap by Martin. 8 tenths quicker than Meunier. So the battle for the lead is very much on here. And if Schluter stays out and holds up Meunier, then things get even more difficult for him.
Okay, that was the fastest lap of the race from Martin. Now, a lot of that was the slipstream that he got from Jarl Tyren up this straight here. That would have benefited him massively, but not quite 8 tenths per second. He is genuinely flying at this point in time, and he needs to, because getting that last stop wrong, coming out with 3 cars between himself and Meunier, means that Meunier has got 2 seconds ahead of him, and Martin has to gain all of that on the road if he's going to challenge Meunier for the win. I think it is between those two for the victory today, Meunier versus Martin. Mark Schluter, of course, currently leads the race, but he is on very old tyres. If he is trying to get those hards to the end, that would be extremely bold, and he will probably be absolutely gobbled up when Meunier and Martin reach him. And of course, everyone else in the pack will probably do the same to him as well, but it may still end up benefiting his ultimate result. But then, of course, you have Meunier, Martin, Tyren, Lahou, and Wok all fighting for position. And then Raw, Shepard, Fournier, and Frelick completing the top 10. Geoffrey Fournier, we were saying earlier, was up 24 positions from his starting place. He'll be up still a good few, maybe 15, maybe 16, 17.
Yeah, look at Schluter's lap times, by the way. He's only about 3 tenths slower than Lahou and Vac and Shepard, who are on much fresher tyres as well. Sort of 10 laps, 9 laps, and 7 laps respectively from all of them. So yeah, Schluter has done more than double that at 23, 24 laps on those tyres. So as it started raining again with 11 laps to go. So could this be the saviour? Is this exactly what Mark Schluter was waiting for? Surely a set of inters are being warmed up in the Edge Esports garage.
Sprinkle, some people still setting their personal best laps of the race, so it hasn't quite taken effect just yet. Martin's last lap was actually 3 tenths slower than Meunier, so Meunier has responded to Martin's pressure and picked it up just a little bit.
Poom in the pits, and so is Dylan Fisher, so AK Hero have seen the rain falling, and they said, so let's roll the dice here, let's go for the inters before anybody else does.
Vulburn, Fletcher, Butcher, and Quint all doing the same thing, and it is intermediate tyres. Goodness me. It's at this point in the race where they're like, no, we're fed up with being screwed over by the weather. We're going to get there ahead of everyone else.
Oh, Schluter's really struggling. Look, Meunier's right behind him now.
Yeah, Meunier is going to get in this lap, I think. Here is Loic Meunier catching up to Mark Schluter, who leads. Now, this weather is actually an absolute godsend for Mark Schluter, because he has stayed out for so long that if everybody has to pit for inters, he will only have to do the same number of pit stops as everyone else in this race to the end. That would put him genuinely in the lead of the race. but Loic Meunier is about to get him here on the extra Blanchimont down towards the bus stop. He can't afford to waste any time. He's going to go around the outside. They're going to touch just a little bit. Meunier gets away with it.
They're both going in.
Come into the pits. Wow, that was brave. Meunier chopping right across the front of Mark Schluter, nearly getting spun around. And if he was going to do that, I'm amazed he went for the move in the first place. But that is crucial because that means that he has jumped Mark Schluter before the pit window has, before the pit stop has even taken place. Look at pretty much everyone coming in. Thomas Vock and Stefan Ruhl stay out. They are now the battle for the lead. Whoa, that's close in the pits. And that was Schluter touching wheels with Tyen as Tyen comes into his box. I don't think there'll be any damage there, but that would have held up Tyen.
Full wets for Martin. Full wets for Carlos Martin.
Goodness me, I wasn't expecting that from Slig straight to the full wets. He expects this to keep getting heavier to the end of the race. And this could go any way at this point in time. Could you imagine if this goes the way of Mark Schluter? I'm really speculating. Stefan Ruhl just took the lead, by the way. He's just overtaken Tomasz Vock out there for the lead of the race.
Oh,
and there they are.
Be sitting ducks, and Vock had to come in because otherwise he would have just been stuck behind Alex Laho's teammate. They were too close to each other in the order. So Martin's gone for wets. Frelick has gone for wets as well. So unsurprisingly, the two TOPs, they think the weather is just going to be full blast on the extreme wet tire to the end here. So this could either be brilliant, or it could be Martin and Frelick just holding on in conditions that aren't quite suited for the full wets just yet.
So no split strategy for the TOPs. Stefan Ruhl was very lucky to get away with a wide movement there on that lap. Look how quickly Meunier is catching up to this bunch, despite having only just made that pit stop. He's on the back now of Geoffrey Fournier, and Fournier, of course, on those softs, will be ruining this weather. He really needed to push from here until the end of the race. Twitching about here, he will have to make his pit stop. Loic Meunier is going to get him before then. Goes through into Blanchimont. That was tense. That was close stuff. And now that's going to really hold off Schluter, because Fournier surely couldn't have done Blanchimont flat out that last time around. And Mark Schluter there will have had to back off as well in expectation. Whoa, Fournier spinning up the tyres on his way into the pits. Ruhl and Wock, I think, have also come into the pits. So that means Meunier once again leads this race from Mark Schluter, who has elevated himself up into contention for this race just by staying out super long in that middle stint. That was really clever stuff there for Mark Schluter. A little bit lucky, but you make your own luck in this sport, and Mark Schluter... He was
still setting good lap times. He could have got swallowed up a lot earlier, and Meunier only just caught him before the pit stops there. If Meunier had not made that pass, we might well be looking at a Mark Schluter win at the moment, and we saw how strong he was in Spain, which again, Barcelona had a late shower there when Meunier finished in the top 5 too. So these are tricky conditions. It's back to how it was at the start, essentially. It's a race in reverse, a wet, dry, wet race, essentially, we've seen at Spa. Incredibly unpredictable. And now for Martin, for Ruhl, for Vac, for Frelick, and Robin Panzer near the back on the full wet, all of them have got to hope they called this right now, or otherwise Martin is the best he can do here is P3. So I think it was a gamble worth doing for TOP here.
Meunier, as well as being the leader of the race, is now his team's only hope in this one, as Jorge Marquez has unfortunately retired. He was a lap down anyway, but he has now lost his chance of getting points even with more attrition, and that's unlucky for Jorge. And here is Carlos Martin, who started on pole position and has gone onto those full wet tyres, hoping that the rain continues to fall. We will watch their lap times with anticipation, with eagerness. Carlos Martin comes up towards the end of this lap.
Yeah, so Meunier and Schluter lost a little bit of ground behind Fournier on the lap out of the pits there. So Carlos did gain about half a second on Mark Schluter. But yeah, Meunier set a lap time under 2 minutes out of such was his speed clearing the field there. So he is absolutely flying here. I think this is really turning into a fight for second so far, the way things are filtering out. And you can tell, there we go. It's not quite full wet territory yet, is it? Mark Schluter 154.6, 155.0, 4 tenths slower for Carlos Martin. So it's not far away, but Mark Schluter will be also getting the little embers of slipstream from Meunier at the moment, but Meunier is nearly 2 seconds ahead of him now. And you know, Meunier, after losing out on the win at Silverstone, with the controversial move that ended up being penalised in the Zeeuw Monfrelic on the final lap. Getting that second win the season. This is an important one for him if he can get this, because this is going to give him a big championship lead going into the final 5 events of the season.
The rain stopped, Ed. According to RaceView, the rain has stopped. So I don't think that was well planned for Carlos Martin, I'm afraid. But he had to do something because Meunier was going to get away, and he is now getting away from Mark Schluter.
Well, he's got to stay out now. If he pits now, he's fallen out of the top 10. So
I don't know if it'll get back to slick weather. I don't think that's the case. Martin, yeah, he's got to stay out. Unless, of course, it gets really, really dry. It gets towards slick weather. And then, of course, you have to bite the bullet a little bit. Sunk cost fallacy is exactly that, a fallacy. By the way,
so close to the end, though, those on the Inters might just stick it out.
Yeah, that's true. Ross McIntyre saying, there's no such thing as luck. It was all part of the plan for Mark Schluter. My radar said dry to the end and we were boxing for soft tyres the lap the wets hit. So I guess, yeah, that was very lucky indeed. I do still say you make your own luck in this sport, and I think Mark Schluter has done that excellently. But yes, you were very, very lucky there that the rain came when it did. Now with just under, I think it's 8 laps to go, including the lap that we're about to start. Yeah, so 8 laps to go now. We wait to see what the weather does from here. It still says that it is not raining as we speak. Martin is a whole second per lap off the pace of Meunier and 0.6 off the pace of Schluter, who himself, of course, is dropping from Meunier. Thomas Vock, I think, just passed Geoffrey Fournier there. That's for 7th place. Okay.
Yeah. Tyne is a second a lap quicker than Martin as well, so even holding on to 3rd now is looking quite precarious for Carlos.
Sorry, I don't think it was Walk on Fournier. It was
Vogt getting past Chris Shepherd, I think.
Sorry, it was Fournier on Shepherd. That was it. Fournier on Shepherd gets up into 8th position. So there you go.
Does Shepherd make a mistake here? And does that let Fournier... No, it's later in the lap, of course. There we go.
Later in the lap, yeah. So here's Geoffrey Fournier. And there's the mistake from Shepherd. Little bit of a kick of oversteer.
Did well to keep that out of the wall, did Chris?
Goes through. He did indeed. Do you remember, was it Lucas Murno smashed into the wall and crossed the line on 3 wheels in that Superlights race the other day? He was very lucky to cross the line at all there, but...
He also did it in Montreal as well, unfortunately, in Super League.
Really?
Lucas Murno. Well, that wasn't at the final. It was literally turn 3. Where he just got on the curb and the car was in a similar state of disrepair. So he's a kind of win it or bin it driver, Lucas Murno, sometimes, but he is spectacular to watch, there's no doubt about it. As we see Tyne, a similar drive with amazing car control now, with another opportunity. It's just like Nürburgring, a few laps to go. He's got to pass Carlos Martin if he wants to finish in P3. It might be a little bit tricky to catch Schluter, but he is also lapping about 7-8 tenths quicker per lap than Mark Schluter as well. So there's still a shot at second. So crucial points in the Teams Championship for THR as their rivals Rotor Formula, Edge are looking to score quite a few points, and Spark, of course, with Meunier as well. As we see yellow in the middle sector, somebody's dropped it somewhere.
I think Fletcher just
started raining again. Oh, good news for Carlos.
Oh my goodness.
Has this come too late? Because Tyne's right on the back of it.
I think it may have been Warburn, actually, who just lost a place there. And look at Tyne. So Tyne is side by side now with Martin and does go through. And it's important that he does that sooner rather than later, because if the rain picks up even more, this could come right back into Carlos Martin's hands. But Tyne has jumped, he's pulled the pin, and he's gone through into that 3rd position. And whether or not he can catch up to Mark Schluter remains to be seen. There's about 4 seconds between them. And here's a replay now. And this is Jannis Wolburn. And we think this is the cause of the yellow flag a minute ago. Whoa! Oh, he's hit the wall. And that's unfortunate for Wolburn, because he's going to have to pit now. And that means that he will lose his chance of scoring any points unless something dramatic happens, because he's dropped right to the back of the cars who still remain in this race. Yeah, 19 cars still remaining. Wolburn is P19. I thought he was on for points there, I'm afraid. But into the wall, that puts Chris Butcher back up into the points in his first race of the year. Twitchy from Wolburn as he gets it back onto the road.
Yeah, well, Wilburn's gone on the inters. I think he might be better off gambling on the full wets the way that this race is going to end here. But you can see Tyne desperate to break away from Carlos Martin, and is about 2.5 seconds ahead of him at the present moment. But Butcher is under threat from Stein Handgraf, who we know has got a good head on his shoulders in these sorts of tricky conditions. We've seen it in several races in the past. Most notably, his best result in the Super League was his 10th or 11th place at Hockenheim last season, which was another race where the weather was absolutely impossible to predict at several points in that race. So yeah, Stein, if he can get close enough to Chris Butcher, he could rob him of the final point. And given Green Stripes have only scored points 2 times with Stein Handgraf before in this season, they could desperately do with another one here.
Yeah, for sure. Teams that I think will be very, very happy with this result. Chris Shepherd there in 9th position. This would just be Red Archer's second top 10 finish of the year. And if Handgraf was to pass Butcher, as you said, this would be their third points finish of the year, let alone a top 10, which they haven't yet achieved this season. The only other team, or the only team that's yet to score a point this year, is Stax Racing. And unfortunately, both of their drivers are already out. Stein Handgraf here, you can visibly see the rain coming down into turn 1. Both get a little bit sideways as they touch the brakes, and that would be exemplified if they touch the grass. You need to keep clear of that at all costs. And the rain can be really tricky as you're going up through Eau Rouge Radion, because it can pool at the bottom, and it's already a tricky enough set of corners. And now you see the run that Stein Handgraf gets. Butcher defends the inside line. Handgraf will go alongside him. He gets the run, but he didn't quite have enough speed to get fully. Oh, and there's a touch, and into the wall goes Butcher, and that is tragic for Butcher, who was on course for a point, and his first point of the year. Will retire from the race, and there's just 18 cars remaining now. Ed, what do you make of that one?
Yeah, that was really, really unfortunate. Handgraf didn't have the DRS, so he wasn't as far ahead, I think, as he'd ideally would have liked to have been. And then there was that moment where Butcher tried to keep his nose in, and unfortunately ended up being tagged into the wall. It was a really unfortunate racing incident, was my read on that. And yeah, Handgraf will be hoping that he avoids punishment for it. But yeah, once he was hit, nothing Butcher could have done to avoid the wall there. He was basically a passenger from that point onwards. But yeah, this shows on the inters that it's so tricky just to stay out of trouble here, as we see over the curb. Yeah, he just sort of almost understeers into Stein at that point.
Yeah, I don't really think there was much that Butcher could have done there. I don't think that was his fault. But then again, in these conditions, it's so hard to pick out anything. I'm not really sure that Handgraf did much wrong either. By the way, that was a poor lap that last time around from Loic Mounier. Gluter and Tyne were both half a second faster than the Spark driver. And whether that means Mounier made a mistake, or whether Schluter and Tyne have just turned up the wick, remains to be seen.
It was a bad final sector for Loic, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And he's picked it up again in the first sector here, so I think it was just a mistake there for Loic Mounier. Don't think we should read too much into that, unless, of course, it happens again, as in these conditions, one lap can change everything.
Yeah, and for Mark Schluter as well, after the season that he's had, to get a podium. Admittedly, as you say, there was an element of running long and hard and then the rain falling in exactly the right moment. But he had to keep those tyres alive long enough to do that, and he lapped competitively enough to still be running in P2, just almost in P1, if not for that move by Mounier right at the bus stop. So some good calls, some good fortune, but also, Simon very nearly loses it over the curb, but just wrestles for control on the full wet tyres. And so that shows you, even on the full wets, the temptation is to spin the tyres on the curb essentially, and it is like driving on ice out there. So everybody almost tiptoeing around, just trying to get to the end and bank some good points here. But those on the full wets know there still could be an opportunity. But for unfortunately for Carlos Martin, he is starting to fall well and truly behind the time to the tune of 4 or 5 seconds here.
Okay, Carlos Martin running in P4. He's still not got the pace that he would have liked out of these wet conditions.
Oh, he's been caught hit by Laho on the inters.
He is. I think Laho might actually get him at this rate. No, Laho was only 0.4 of a second faster than him on the last lap. I was looking at Jarl Tyne's lap times, because Martin was over a second off, well, just under a second off Yartine, about 0.4 of a second off Schluter and Moynier.
I'm not going to praise Alex Lahoe until he crosses the line, because I know that might put the curse on him. But here comes Milnek round the outside of Frelick. So Frelick punished for that small mistake there. As yeah, the Inters have still got just enough tread on them to be able to just breeze around the wets. I think it was that brief dry period where it started to dry out and then it rained again that has really hurt the wet runners and just burnt up their tyres. So by the time the rains start falling again, it's too little too late.
Yeah, he was punished a little bit by Winnick coming back through there. But to be honest, I think the reward for that is just being in the race at all, because we've seen drivers have that incident earlier on.
10 have fallen so far, yeah. That's nearly half the field.
Went into the wall there. I think, was that the place where Xavi Rose crashed, or Riot Kilk? Someone went into the wall there pretty hard.
It's about 4 victims, that part of the track at Stavelo, isn't it?
That is true, that is true. But anyway, Szymon Frelick is not going to be one of those, at least not for now.
Look at Tyne, 0.6 faster than Schluter the previous lap. He hasn't given up on P2, but he's only got 2 more laps. Schluter has just got to hold on to what would be Edge's best result at the season, and boy, do they need it. And speaking of needing a result, same for Alex Lahoe in P5. That would be a fantastic return if he can just hold on a few more laps on those Inters.
Annoyingly, Schluter's last lap was not valid, so that means we can't see exactly how much he gained or lost compared to others. The track continues to get wetter. You can tell that because the laps continue to get slower. We're now in the 157s and 58s, where the fastest laps of the race have been 144s. And that was, of course, in the dry conditions. But even last lap, people were doing 156s, and now no one's even getting close to that. So the track is getting damper. Carlos Martin loses another second to Tyen, loses 0.4 to Lahoe, who's catching him, but not quite quick enough. Lahoe would need Martin to make a mistake, but we're going to watch that battle anyway. And here is Alex Lahoe running in 5th position.
Ooh, don't go too far over the curves, Alex. Please don't bin it now. Well, I'm getting flashbacks to Spain here, where he was running also in the top 5 and then spun it literally just a handful of laps to go.
Yeah. Into the Piff Paff chicane.
Is it Piff Paff or Fanier? I always prefer calling it Fanier. Piff Paff sounds like pinball. I
think Piff Paff is the name of the chicane as a whole, and Fanier is one of the corners in that chicane. I think Fanier is the second one. Or maybe Piff Paff is the first corner, Fanier is the second one. But it's definitely Piff Paff, and that's how I've always known it, simply because it's a very silly name for a corner, and I'm not going to forget that anytime soon. Across the line comes Loic Mounier. We'll have a look at the lap times once again. It looked as if Schluter got visibly slightly closer on that lap, but I was wrong. He was a tenth slower, yeah, indeed. Yartine, meanwhile, was about 0.7 faster than them, but still, it's too little too late for Yartine. Martin's continuing to lose time just a little bit, but Lahoe was only able to gain on him by 0.2 of a second, so I think that's going to finish how it is now. And you can see the spray picking up as well.
I think Rot is the fastest driver on track at the moment, but the problem is he's about 5 seconds behind Lahoe now, so
yeah.
With just a lap and a half to go, he's not going to catch, even if he is running about half a second a lap faster than him. So unfortunately, Stefan Rot and HRT will have to be content with 6th and 10th here, as Milnek is just about holding off Szymon Frelick at the present moment. So yeah, certainly a lot of drivers had an up and down race. I think Frelick has used every single tyre compound in this race, bar one, I think. So yeah, that shows you the story of his race in a nutshell there. But let's see, there's a replay of something relevant, and this is Mike Quint then falling out of the points, I think, or out of behind Stein Handgraf then, as he has a big moat through Blanchimont, gets onto the grass, spins sideways, has a big bumpy ride, but gets going just ahead of, I think that's Robin Pansard just behind in the sole remaining Adonis then. So good save from Mike Quint, but pushing a little bit too hard for that final point to try and get revenge for Fraser Tartan on Stein Handgraf after the collision that took out his teammate Chris Butcher earlier.
Bit of an anonymous day for Robin Pansar at the track where he took his only Super League victory 2 years ago. But I guess you can't win them all.
Well, he was at the very back of the grid, wasn't he, Robin? So
that is true. Max Schluter just a second ahead of Jarl Tyen, heading on to the final lap of the race, but that's all he needs to be. I think at this point it's just a survival race between the at the front of the order. The top two cars within a second of each other now are Winnick and Frelick, 10th and 11th. Ahead of them, it's all about survival, just bringing it to the end and not making any silly mistakes. Schluter actually lost a little bit of time on that last lap to Loic Mounier and dropped back a little further towards Jarl Tyen. It was actually a really bad lap from Schluter in the 158s, whereas Mounier, Tyen, etc. were all able to pick up the pace just a little bit. The sun, well, not the sun, but the rain has actually stopped once again on this last lap of the race. It just cannot make its mind up. And I said the sun because it's showing me a nice bright sunny emoji on the Race View app, but to be honest, I think that's a little bit optimistic considering the conditions we see in front of us. Should really show clouds. Through Pouhon for the last time comes Mark Schluter. That's one of the trickiest corners on the track, so the fact he's got through there will be a little cause for relief. Through Pithpath, through Fagnet, and down towards the campus corner. Towards Malmedy, which is the second part of this, pointing towards the village of Malmedy. And now just a few more corners to go, one heavy braking zone, and he will bring home his first podium finish of the year, an Edge Esports first podium finish of the year. It's remarkable to see them 10th, 11th in the team standings at this stage in the season. However, we have a new championship leader, and it will be the Belgian Loic Mounier, who comes out of the final corner and up to the line. He's French, my apologies. Loic Mounier, the French driver, crosses the line to win the race and take the lead of the championship. Max Schluter is second, Jarl Tyen is third, and then Carlos Martin, Alex Laho, and Stefan Roel will make up the top six. My apologies there to Loic Mounier for getting that wrong, but what a drive that was from Loic. Tomasz Vok comes home P9. What a day for Road to Formula racing. Then it's Jeffrey Fournier, Chris Shepherd, and Maciej Winnick. To be honest, with how much Red Archer have been struggling this season, I'm going to give my driver of the day vote to Chris Shepherd there. Just outside the top 10, but also in the points, were Shimon Frelick, Heigo Poom, Dylan Fisher, Sergio Fletcher, and Stein Hangraf, who scores for Green Stripes, importantly. A very good drive from him, just to bring the thing home. Missing out on the points at the end were Quint, Panzer, and Walburn. But then again, on a day of attrition such as this, all you really needed to do is bring it home for at least a respectable finishing position. Great drive there from Loic Mounier, who has mastered the conditions. Fantastic strategy call from Mark Schluter to get himself involved in this one from way, way down after his spin in qualifying. I think he'll be kicking himself for that, to be honest, because I think he'd have been further up the order and may be able to challenge for the win. Jarl Tyen P3, Carlos Martin P4, having started on pole. He faded just a little bit in the latter stages, partly due to going on wet tyres when the track was really calling for inters. Then it's Alex Laho, Stefan Roel, Tomasz Vok, Jeffrey Fournier, Chris Shepherd, and Maciej Winnick. Great drive there for Chris Shepherd, equals Red Archer's best result of the season so far. Shimon Frelick, only P11, the driver third in the championship. Will not take second in the championship today. That's important. He could well have taken second in the championship with a good result here. Heigo Poom is 12th, then it's Dylan Fisher, Sergio Fletcher, and Stein Hangraf. And then, as I said, missing out were Mike Quint, Robin Panzer, and the lapped Janis Walburn. And then a lot of retirements. Butcher, Markinev, both bit the dust. And then it was Soltero, Kilk, Rose, Stevens, Lalu, Maggio, Scott, Vasquez, and Merling, and of course we lost the other Super Venturi of Sandeep Singh yesterday when he injured himself playing football, and we look forward to the return of Jan Grankvist as he continues his championship charge. And trust me, even though Mounier now leads the championship, it is far from over. This thing is going to go down to the wire, I expect. And the fact that he's missed out on 2 races worth of points won't really concern him that much at all. Tom Stevens there. What a disappointing result for him, and not really his fault. I'm sure the stewards will look into it and decide that for sure. But yeah, massive accident out there on the circuit for Tom Stevens. And I'm very thankful that this race didn't go ahead in the real world, to be honest, because we did have some big shunts today. And I think we avoided a couple of injuries with this one by holding it in the virtual world. But anyway, donuts for Loic Meunier as he celebrates a fantastic drive and his second victory, not just of the season, but in Super League as a whole. He's finished first on 3 occasions, but of course ended up losing that victory at Silverstone after a post-race review. But he's got it today, he's taken his revenge, and he has got that P1 spot on the track and in the championship, Ed.
Yep, very well deserved. When the rain started to fall again, you did sort of sense that Meunier was going to be the one to pull the trigger and get ahead of Martin, and so it proved. But also, it was mainly Mark Schluter that was the crucial move as it happened out, the way that things played out as the two AK heroes push each other into the pits. It looks like Dylan's run out of fuel and Heigo's pushing them along there, which is great to see both AK heroes just outside the top 10 again, which seems to be a running theme this season. But nonetheless, they scored some decent points. But yeah, in terms of the team's championship as well, tied with Stevens having that massive accident, Tyne getting in P3 on a day where neither Super Venturi, one didn't start, the other couldn't quite get to the finish. That was absolutely key in that battle, especially with Rotor Formula and TOP both scoring quite strongly then. So yeah, that really proves that Jarl Tyne is absolutely worth his weight in gold, and that move on Martin at the end was very much icing on the cake. So as you say, Caitlin, I think it's difficult to react to that race because so much happened. I think I got to give my driver today to either Schluter or Laho, because both of them have been under so much pressure in this championship recently, especially Laho with 3 big accidents in a row, that his mood was so low. He'd practiced so much in this race and it absolutely paid off. In tricky conditions, he didn't put a foot wrong and he gets a well-deserved P5. So I think of the two, I think Schluter also drove brilliantly, but I would just about give it to Laho.
Fair enough. All right. We are finally able to speak to our race winner, who is going to join us in the commentary booth now. And that is Loic Meunier. Loic, what a drive. You now lead both, not just the race that you've just taken the victory of, but also the championship as a whole. How are you feeling?
Oh man, I'm sweaty, tired, and delighted. That was one of the most fun races I've had in a while. Not because of probably because of the position, but mostly because of the weather. I don't think I've had a wet race in a while, and it's always great fun, even if you're not the fastest.
Well, delighted you should be. That was amazing stuff. And it was tense as well. There were mistakes from, I think, pretty much everyone in the field made mistakes. And I remember at one point it allowed Carlos Martin to get back through and pass you. Were you concerned at any point that you were on the wrong strategy or anything like that, or was it all under wraps the whole time?
With somewhere in the middle of the race, I remember I was watching Jarl keeping up with us just a couple seconds back, and I was told he had the Haas, and the plan was that if it doesn't dry up, I could just do medium. But then Jarl could just go longer on his hards, box for soft, and especially with the grip we had, the grip levels, if it had it straight dry, that's probably what he would have done, and would have no doubt been in contention for that win.
And what do you make of the sudden late pressure from Mark Schluter? That was an incredible overtake you pulled on him into the chicane. But really brave, because if you had not got past him when you did, you'd have been stuck on the left. You wouldn't have been able to get into the pit lane.
Yep. I knew I had battery then left at the time, and I could deploy some because I hadn't used any since the start of the race really by then. Maybe only to overtake Jarl when I exited my first stop, but I could really use some battery, and I said I have to pass him before, because exactly as you said, if this race goes to inters, it's a whole different story on how to overtake. He had dead hards, had worn mediums, but still very much faster than them. And it's the kind of moves in my head I had to do. So I'm glad it didn't end in the heartbreak. But I know Mark, I've had him under my coat last year. I know how he does, and that I could trust him on this behalf.
Well, I certainly held my breath, but yeah, it ended up being the move for the win, didn't it? And what a way to decide it. As you are the championship leader now, we have to ask you a question about that. Jan Grangfist, we're expecting to be back for the next round. How do you see the championship fight shaking out from here?
I think it's how could I put it? It's the best it's been. This year's the best it's been at all. I don't remember a championship I've had where it was so tense and I could have such an advantage with it. Obviously, that's not gonna last forever because Jan is an absolute machine, and I have no doubts he will probably catch up a few points through the rest of the season. But it was one of those critical moments that you needed to grab as much points as you could, and even being in the top 10, that would have given me the lead. But if you really want to fight someone as strong as Jan, you have to take everything for yourself. And a win was definitely the best I could hope for today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, fantastic job. Ed, do you have anything to add for our race winner?
Well, first off, congratulations, Loic, because you had to wait since Silverstone to take that second win of the season after losing it in the stewards room. Then you had to miss out to Dennehan. No Dennehan today. It was all about you versus Carlos and Mark in the end. So a fantastic display. I think the thing that really made that race for you was your start from 5th on the grid in those mixed, tricky conditions. You picked off Milnek, you picked off Yartine, and Maggio made a bad start. So all in the space of about half a lap, you went from 5th to 2nd, and that really set you up to challenge for victory. And there was that crazy moment as well where you and Carlos were fighting, and then Tom had that crazy spin hitting the back of Carlos. Obviously, you were long gone by that point. But yeah, there was so much chaos at the start, and you didn't put a foot wrong. So is there a way to turn that into a question? Do you agree?
Well, I guess what you're asking, what you could imply to ask, is a review on my behalf of what the start of the race was like. Yeah, definitely as good as you could hope for. Sometimes you gotta make your own luck, whether it's by your inputs or other people taking too many risks. And it's a wet start. I have no experience with those cars. Well, in the wet, yes, we had with Barcelona, we had Canada, but I mean, it's still rare, and I only practiced the wet today. So for me to get positions from other people's mistake on the start was a big help. And then I could just not cruise, but find my own pace. And yeah, I think where people lost the race today was on that start.
Absolutely. So you're 23 points clear, Jan, in the Drivers' Championship, and I believe Spark have now moved up to 4th in the Teams Championship, if I've got my sort of mental calculator correct now, because I think you've moved back past Adonis and Holland Racing Team with your win today. So obviously, lot to fight for in these final 5 events of the season. You feeling confident going into, I believe, is it Hungary the next round?
It is.
It is.
If I stop shaking in the qualifying, maybe I will get better. But yeah, I think.
Well, you make starts like today, then
yeah,
you can easily make up for it.
That's why I said it's the biggest points gain of points lead I had this whole year. So for the last 5 rounds, I know I just have to keep it on the road, stick to the plans, and that was probably a race where I took some risks. Now I maybe don't have to do this anymore for a little bit. So I can just let.
Are we going to see a conservative Loic Moynier?
Well, I can't say that because in the heat of the moment you could always switch up.
It's true. If there's a win on the table, you've got to go for it. Right?
The wise men would say, "You're ahead. Keep it safe now." So yeah.
Well, you certainly showed the capability to do that in these conditions. It was the same at Barcelona, where you clawed your way up to P2, and you went one better this time. So congrats on another win, and best of luck for the rest of the championship. Like, you've got a brilliant chance, and here's hoping you make the most of it.
Thank you.
So then, as we let Lloyd Monnier depart with the winner's trophy and as he says, a big profit in the Drivers' Championship, he's clearly over the moon about. Let's talk to somebody else who's also most likely over the moon at the moment, and that is Edge Esports' very own, the man you see on the cover of the interview screen, number 24, Mark Schluter. So we're joined now by Mark Schluter after unexpectedly going from, I believe it was 18th on the grid. Was it 18th on the grid? It might have been worse than that. It was 21st on the grid, all the way up to P2, Mark. What an absolutely spectacular drive. And it was that, what was it? 28 lap stint on the hard tire in the middle of the race that absolutely, 26 laps, I should say, that absolutely opened it up for you. Obviously, a tough start where you pit maybe a lap or two too late to go onto the dry tires. But then your pace, you were so consistent that you were only caught by Loic right at the end as the rain started to fall down again with 12, 11 laps to go. And you really had to work hard to get yourself into that position. So obviously, after the difficulties you've had this season, there must be a sense of relief for you. But also, that wasn't just luck. You absolutely had to make that happen for you.
Yeah, I mean, the rain today helped it a lot because the car was not up to the pace. If it would have been a fully dry race, I think in qualifying we were losing 2 times alone in the first sector to the Epic car, and first sector is mainly straight line. So yeah, I was kind of hoping for rain in the end, and just when I was about to pit for another set of dry tires, the rain hit at the right moment, and I could pit for Inters and stay in P2.
And you had to kick that Inter button quickly because not only did the conditions change, but you also had Loic Monnier making that move on you. Is there a bit of frustration that if you defended a bit harder, you could maybe have won that race? Or is there a sense that Loic was so strong today that it would have been difficult to beat him anyway?
No, I think it was too difficult. If I maybe would have been able to start where he started, then I might be able to bring home a victory. But yeah, just unfortunate that on my last quali lap, the rear just gave out and I spun. I think I would have been able to maybe get top 5 or at least top 10. But yeah, I mean, I'm still very happy. I hope we can get this momentum into Hungary, where some updates will hopefully help the pace of the car.
Yeah, certainly. I believe you definitely got Edge back into the top 10 in the drivers teams championship, I should say, past Fraser Tartan Racing. So fantastic job on that account, and I believe you're up to P14 on 41 points now in the drivers championship, for what it's worth. Obviously, there's a certain other fantasy championship where you've been doing very, very well in, Mark, but it been Spain aside, a real tough season for you, and as if there were a lot of collisions, and not all of them your fault, of course. But obviously your morale, every time we talked to you post-race, it seemed that you weren't in the best of moods, understandably so. And it's so great to talk to you after, you said you were struggling for pace, but still, to get that good result under your boots, that's got to be a boost to morale. It's got to really lift your spirits a bit right when you need it. And at the team's home race as well.
Yeah, for sure. As I said already, I hope we finally can maybe get consistent top 5s or at least top 10s for the remaining races. I think that would be the goal for now. I mean, my personal goal is still to get at least one race win this season. I came close today. Unfortunately, my former team boss, which now drives for Spark, didn't gift me it as a.
He's fighting for the Drivers'
but...
Championship, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
but aren't they all?
I mean, he would have gained points nonetheless to Grand Chris today, but yeah. I mean,
if he loses out by less than 7 points, no, if he wins by more than 7 points, you maybe you got a case to say, oh, you should have let me have that one. But I'm sure if you keep driving like that, Mark, there will be a bit more other chances and a little bit more good luck. Because even without the rain, I think there was a good chance of a strong points finish with a run on the soft tire near the end there. You might have had to overtake Thomas Vack, which I think Omar Gorgi made a comment like, "Oh, at least he's not running where Thomas Vack is," because you seem to have a bit of a habit of you and him a bit magnetic in a very negative way, to put it mildly. So at least that was avoided today. But yeah, absolutely. So I don't really have any more questions, Mark, but just congratulations. Do you have anybody else who you want to shout out before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out to Stephen who was cheering for me, to Stephen Lex who was cheering for me in the live chat.
Absolutely, good old Stephen Lexo. But well, anyway, hopefully this isn't the last time we talk to you after a strong result, Mark, this season, because you've definitely deserved it and earned it. And yeah, best of luck for Hungary and the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you guys, and have a good evening.
So then, as we let Mark Schluter depart with his very, very shiny and well-earned second-place trophy, let's invite in THR's very own Jarl Tyne, who, of course, had a very dramatic race to climb from outside, I think, the top 6 at one point, all the way back onto the podium. So crucial points for THR. Let's hear what Tyne had to say about his incredibly exciting race. So we're now joined by Norway and THR's very own Jarl Tyne after yet another podium this season. Well, Jarl, you were, I think, third on the grid to start with, if memory serves. You set an amazing lap near the end of qualifying. Unfortunately, there were 2 laps slightly better than it, and there was a very, very chaotic start. It seemed in the wet at the start that you were losing a lot of positions to the drivers around you, and it was really as the race went on that things seemed to go back into your lane. You had amazing straight line speed today, and that really seemed to save your race, especially with that late move on Carlos Martin as his wets burnt out near the end of the race. So obviously, big crash for your teammate, Tom Stevens. So in that context with the team's championship, a very important third place, but on a very chaotic day, you must have felt maybe there was a little bit more on the table there, especially as you were catching Mark near the end.
Yes, there's a lot to uncover. Qualifying was very disappointing because I did my lap on a much wetter track. The 2 guys who beat me got me right at the end when the rain went to 0%. And yeah, I think I could have had pole by a couple of tenths there. But still, P3 was fine, and then we had a much lower downforce setup, and even with that, we were still very quick in the wet. But then yeah, I made unbelievable amounts of mistakes on the first stint. We were quick, just mistakes that slowed me down. I think I almost died probably 4 times on that first hard stint. And then obviously right before I wanted to pit for that second hard stint, I made a massive mistake, lost another 3 or 4 seconds, and pitted, undercut both Luke and Carlos, but they overtook me. And yeah, it was just so many mistakes. I think a total of 30 seconds was lost in terms of actual race time, overall race time. Just yeah, so many mistakes. It's a bit embarrassing, but P3 regardless. I don't know how that's even possible.
I think as everybody else lost at least 30 seconds or more as well through various different strategic decisions. It was crazy, especially when in the middle part of the race where it sort of started raining, drizzling down a little bit, and Jeffrey Fournier was the first to sort of gamble and go for the softs, wasn't he? And he was starting to set very, very good lap times. It was the leaders that were all trying to make essentially a free stop that they were forced onto, because there was a very sort of sprint race on the dry tires in the middle of this, essentially. So that made it quite a difficult strategy to sort of square off there. Was there ever that temptation to go for the softs, or did you think the hards were always the right way to go? Because obviously you only did 6 laps on the second set of hards, as it happened with the rain.
Yeah, no, exactly. The hards was definitely the correct choice, and would have been the correct choice. But what helped the medium runners was the drizzle. It really punished the hards, getting temperature into them, and it extended the life of the mediums, being able to extend so far, especially in that second stint. On a completely bone dry track, they would have cliffed off after 10 laps, and I would have easily been able to catch them. But it was so hard to get a full get in the groove of the hards, pretty much. And yeah, mistakes and the hard tires being very poor on the low grip surface. Really punished me. But yeah, it was a temptation to go for mediums for the final stint. But I was gambling on it being bone dry, and it looked like it was going to be bone dry. But then the rain changed again, and it's back to full-on rain, which in one sense I was disappointed with, but in another sense it was actually relieving because I knew I had the pace on the very wet conditions. And as you saw, I was closing in on Schluter and Meunier there right at the end. Didn't quite get them, but I was very confident on the pace at least.
Yeah, certainly. So that is the positive to take forwards. Second race in a row, by the way, where your amazing instincts and car control have sort of saved you and allowed you to finish on the podium after nearly hitting the wall just meters away from it at Nürburgring as well. So you've certainly kept your instincts in handy, even if there were parts of the race that were a little bit tricky for you. So obviously looking ahead to Hungaroring, THR now going with a 29-point lead over Super Venturi, I believe, unless TOP I think might have just outscored Super Venturi, but nobody's worked out the points yet for me. So from a teams championship point of view, it's all looking fine and dandy, but now with Jan Grankvist coming back, surely drivers, it's all about everybody chasing down Loic now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not really too much fussed about the drivers. I think it's important to make sure both me and Tom have good races going forward, and whatever happens. I think Jan will be strong as always, and now especially with a car missing for this round, he's essentially saved an engine, right? So he'll have quite a bit of an advantage going into the next few races with that fresh engine.
That's the only thing he did save in that car, unfortunately, for poor Tom. You are 9 points ahead of him in the Drivers' Championship. You're equal third with Simon, by the way. So 107 points each, with Maciej Milnik in between on 101 points. So yeah, very, very tense there. And you say you don't care, but there's every chance you could still be a big factor in these final 5 events, Jarl. So best of luck. Is there anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
Yeah, with a massively chaotic race, I've got to thank Toby especially for trying to stay on top of the rain, and he tried his best, but it's really impossible to try to predict the weather. But I'd say this P3 goes to him, and he was around with me for the last 2 weeks, with others being unable to stick around because of vacation and all that stuff. So he was around here for 2 weeks and was a massive help in the race. So thank you to Toby.
Yeah, and thank you to you, Jarl, for putting on another fantastic, spectacular show for us to watch with some brilliant moves. Best of luck for the rest of the season. We'll see you 2 weeks' time in Hungary.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Right, so as you let our final podium finisher leave, shall we talk to the man who started on pole position, Mr. Carlos Martin? So Carlos Martin joins us now from TOP Esports. Carlos, obviously mixed emotions today, because obviously you put in an amazing pole lap right at the end of qualifying. It all started so strong. You were swapping positions with Loic a couple of times. There was the collision with Tom where Tom Stevens hit the back of you and then breakdanced end over end out of the race. And then towards the end, when the rain fell, you stayed out that one lap longer, and that allowed Loic Meunier to leapfrog you, as well as, of course, Mark Schluter doing his unconventional strategy, leapfrogging you as well. As Carlos, people on stream can't see this, but Carlos has turned on his camera so that I can see his visual reaction, which is nice. I should probably turn on mine as well. That makes it fair. But anyway, I can see you're very, very exhausted. Describe to the viewers. I can tell you're a little bit disheveled. A bit of your hair. Have you used some hair gel, or is it just naturally sticking up like that way, Carlos? Obviously.
No. It's just my hair, when it gets very long, it gets curly. I mean, the first thing is, the pole, we had insane pace in dry conditions, and we couldn't show it. And the car in the wet, it felt very bad. And I had to pump up the wings to actually make the car feel good. And my penultimate attempt, I was actually way faster than the last lap I completed, but I thought that the weather would get drier, so I went back to the pits, and then it started raining again, and I just did pole by 20 thousandths, otherwise I would have been by half a second. But at the end, I have a bittersweet taste, and not because of the result itself. I mean, I was behind Loic, and I knew I maybe could get Schluter, but I wanted to win, so I took that gamble to go full wets. But that's not what it makes it bittersweet. It makes bittersweet that for the incident with Tom. Yeah, I move and he didn't expect it. I move when I'm still fully ahead of him, and there's not much gap for him, and he doesn't move fast enough, and he taps my rear, and I feel bad for him because I want to say we get along very well, and it's the second time I am at fault in an incident like this with him. So I feel bad for him. I don't care if I get a penalty or not, even though the rulebook covers me. Like I had a extremely similar incident with Dylan Fisher last year, and I was the guy behind, and now he took the penalty. But it's still, I don't think it feels good to Tom, and I didn't feel good about that. So yeah, I feel sorry for Tom. So the bittersweetness is not for not winning; it's for these kind of incidents that I never want to happen.
Well, certainly not. And yeah, it was definitely a big shame to see Tom Stevens out of the race so early. But obviously, it's a sort of thing that can happen sometimes at high speed, going into down the Camel Straight into Lacombe, where you've got to make decisions quickly, and sometimes when it goes wrong, it can go wrong quite spectacularly. But yeah, nonetheless. Talking about you personally, Carlos, you've really peaked at this point in the season, and you're performing super well. Just missing out to Denner. If Dennerhan hadn't showed up, that would be 2 poles in a row for you, and obviously 2 4 positions. So this is really key points for TOP in the teams championship, where suddenly Simon has had a couple of slightly trickier qualifyings, and you've suddenly become the lead driver all of a sudden.
Well, I mean, Shimon had worse engines in those past 2 races, and even though Nürburgring I had a worse engine from the top 5, so that counts as well, right? And today was the first time through our planning that I had an equal engine as the rest of the field, and towards the end of the season I will have an advantage towards that. We are planning to develop until the very end, and well, we will have the upper hand in this regard. I still have 3 new engines, whereas some, well, 2 after this race, sorry. Whereas some teams, they only have 1 or even none after this one. So yeah, I think I've been in shape, especially since Canada. Canada, I didn't show up because I did a mistake in quali, and I finished P30, but I had good pace to contest for the podium as well. Yeah, I've been very much in shape these last races, even though the results it misses to show up.
Yeah, certainly. And by the way, a week ago when we commentated FS1 together, I did make a few jokes about whether I cheer you on or not. And inside I was cheering you on, but if you listen back, I think you'll find Caitlin very much kept me in check. And mainly it helps that I like Luke as well. So there was equal encouragement, I think, on both sides, and for Mark as well, of course. Moving into Hungaroring, another track that you've won before in previous categories. Are you excited, obviously, because TOP with no points scored by Super Venturi, second in the team's championship, is very much up for grabs. I know TOP is aiming for even higher, but there's a big opportunity now in these final 5 events to capitalize.
Yes, we're bringing another set of upgrades to Hungaroring, and we are expecting to be ahead of Epic for one of the few times we have been this season. Epic brought a huge package to here, so it's not feasible for them to bring anything to Hungaroring. I need to check what THR is going to do, but yeah, we're going to bring upgrades pretty much almost until the end of the season. We checked with Owen, economy is good. We're bringing results, even though Shimon and myself were a bit expensive in the driver's salary, but we are able to full develop the car anyway. We underdeveloped the car until now, just taking into account that we knew that yeah, we want to develop until the end. Otherwise, we will run out of money. We could have followed the pace of Epic, but I think in the long run, we wouldn't have been able to sustain the pressure.
Absolutely. So, yeah, good to see you've got something in your back pocket, as usual, Carlos, that you can deploy to maximum effect. So, obviously, a bit unlucky on the podium, but a fabulous pole position. I'm sure it's not the last we'll see from you in Super League. So, best of luck for the rest of the season. Oh, there could be more rain. You never know.
Well, I went like 4 clicks more or 3 clicks more on the rear wing than when I was expected, and I asked what's the top speed of the guys around, and they said plus 12 kph, plus 8, plus 9. I was like, okay, if it dries, I'm toasted. But I was surprised by the pace in the dry. I was able to overtake Jarl, and I would have hunted down Loic very likely, and I would have been a nice fight for the win.
Yeah, well, nonetheless, thanks for putting on a great show for us, Carlos. And yeah, best of luck to you for Hungaroring in 2 weeks' time. There we go. I'm just doing a scout salute for Carlos there, and he's done one in return. So
yes.
I should turn the camera on for all these interviews.
Yeah.
I'm sure Laho is going to
this is
massively
a nice
mocking
feature.
me in the next interview. So there we go. A great
mean,
feature that the viewers at home cannot see at all.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate, Remco, Ed, for the stream. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for the driving. So, as we let Carlos celebrate another hard-fought, very, very hard-fought P4 in pole position, let's bring in the man who finished behind him in P5 in the points for the first time in 3 races' time, and that is Mr. Alex Laho. So we're joined now by Rotor Formula's Alex Laho. Alex, not only did you finish the race, a very, very chaotic race, you didn't put a foot wrong, to my knowledge there. Apart from, well, there was one bit. Oh, hello. You've been listening, haven't you?
Yeah, I was doing a stream.
Okay. You're trying to steal my job now, are you?
Yeah.
So, back on form. You qualify in the top 5. You finish in the top 5. But that doesn't really tell the full story. It was so up and down today. Obviously, at the start, you're in a massive scrum trying to hold on to sort of P6. Tom Stevens goes end over end. You go back up to P5. You end up undercutting Jarl Tyne. Oh, did you see it? It was like an airplane going overhead.
Pretty much. That's what happened
Best
to Tom. I was
part-
like, ugh.
And luckily, it had nothing to do with you. There were no dramas for Laho this
Thankfully,
time.
for once.
So yeah, you made mostly the right calls. Let's microanalyze it. You pit after 4 laps, 18 laps on the hards. Was it 11 laps on another set of hards? Was it? So very similar strategy to Jarl Tyne, wasn't it? And then the last 11 laps on the inters. So obviously you were quite close to your teammate Thomas Vack at certain parts of that race. Was there one bit where Vack and was it Chris Shepherd got through at one point?
Yeah, I made a mistake. I went on the wet line.
It wasn't
I
on
went
camera,
the curb,
luckily.
actually.
We didn't see a replay of it,
was
so
on
it may
camera,
as well not
thankfully.
happen.
But I still lost 2 positions. Unlucky. At
But you-
the end of the
you were
medium stint.
able to get them back though.
Yeah.
You sound was disappointed with that. You
But,
drove well.
Yeah, but no. The thing is, I went for the hards on lap 20 something. I shouldn't have at all. I lost 10 seconds.
but you weren't
that
to know
possibly cost me
you're
the
only going
race
to need
win.
them for. You weren't to know that you're only going to need them for 11 laps in the second stint though. So
Yeah, that costed me so much, man. The mediums was so much quicker. But the thing is, I didn't know. We saw on the radar that it was gonna be dry until the end of the race. There was no rain inbound anymore. So I was like, wait, my tires on like 60% better than Thomas. Should I undercut? And I did, and that was the mistake. I shouldn't have. That was the mistake that possibly costed me the race win today. The mediums was so goddamn quick. You have no idea. I swear, you have no idea.
Merci beaucoup for the language. But there we go. So, Drivers'
Didn't pay
Championship.
attention.
That's okay.
Sorry.
It wasn't that bad. People have said worse on the streams. So you're now 8 points away from your teammate Thomas Vack. You're on 50 points. He's on 58. And I believe that means you Rotor Formula are now on 108 points exactly in the Teams Championship. Where does 108 points put you? I think I think you're ahead of Valet in 7th now,
so.
if memory
Yeah,
serves.
I think so. Yeah.
His Valet only scored 2 points courtesy of Sergio, who had a bit of a tricky race. But yeah, from your point of view, after the way last 3 races went, you really needed a clean race, and you absolutely excelled when it was a lot of people binned it in very, very tricky conditions. You absolutely kept your head. So it was a return to the mature Lahoo, the one that won the Superlights title, the one that some people were questioning whether he'd come back, and he definitely came back today. So we have to say congrats and well done, Alex, because
Thank you.
I almost want to say I'm proud of you, but then that feels a little too biased. So you did well. Keep it up, or there'll be no more praise for you.
I did definitely practice for this. I did
you did say you were going to do
5 times
it.
more practice than usual.
And unlike the last 5 times, you actually followed through. So.
All right, I will see myself.
Good. The interview's done. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go? Oh.
Well, thank you for, I guess, the team and some people which they know who they are, but like for testing and stuff. So that was quite cool. That was quite cool, good, and we're gonna try to do it in the future.
Oh, sorry, it's a good thing the cameras aren't on stream, because my mum just popped in to ask me how much longer I'm going to be. So I think that's a good cue to let you go. So congrats on the P5, Alex. Brilliant drive, some good teamwork with your teammate, and some good overtakes when you needed them. Obviously, Carlos was just a little bit out of reach on the full wets, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of chances to break the top 4 again and the top 3 later in the season if you keep this up. So great to see you back on form, and long may it continue.
Inshallah. That's all I can say. Hopefully.
Well, let's hope we don't get put in a register now. But
No, it's fine. It's not a bad one at all.
Oh no. Well, not in your country anyway. Our country's become quite strict about online safety laws, apparently. I think it's time to let you go. There's one more driver that I did want to try and interview.
I'm taking a lot of time.
I think there's one more. I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to remember his last name, because he's joined us for this race. It is Vasquez. There we go, Aaron Vasquez. Yeah, because he qualified right near the back, so I couldn't find his last name.
Yeah,
there we
top
go.
1 high rating in the world.
Yes, exactly. So let's drag in Green Stripes' very own Aaron Vasquez to hear what he thought of his first ever race. And apparently, Alex Lahoo is going to co-interview with me now. Or just hang around. Okay, so let's hear from him about his race. So we're joined now by Green Stripes' very own Aaron Vasquez. Hola, Aaron. Welcome to GPVWC. Obviously, bit of a tricky baptism of fire with the weather being completely unpredictable. Unfortunately, you didn't see very much of this race. You only got to see, I think, the first lap or so. But it's been great to have you. What were your thoughts on GPV as a whole, having taken part in Super League for the first time?
Hello, guys. I think to be my first race was really, really difficult, because I didn't expect it would be raining, to be honest. So I was practicing everything in dry, and I made the setup for dry basically. So when I see it was raining, I tried to practice a little bit before the race, but I didn't have the time enough to make a setup for the rain and practice enough laps, and I didn't have the confidence at all. So when I joined to the server, I was expecting to be more or less in the group behind, not in the group in front. So when I see my quali, it was okay. It was not too terrible at all. I have more or less a good pace to be at least in top 10, but after the start, I see that I missed the start as well. So I was thinking to be safe, not risk too much, to be honest, the first 2 laps, but unfortunately, in the second lap, someone spun in front of me, and I touched him, and I broke my front wing. So after that, my race was completely over already, I say, but also in Horus I have an incident as well. So after that, I was already fully over, and I think I didn't have any more chance because my car was completely broken, I would say. But in general, it was a good feeling with the car, feeling with the sim, and I think it was a good preparation for me. But sadly, the race was a little bit bad, to be honest. But yeah, I'm happy. At least.
Oh, that's good to hear. So obviously you've achieved quite a lot in your iRacing career. Your reputation very much precedes you. Do you fancy, because I think we don't have an iRating, but we do have a GPV leaderboard of like all-time kind of points, I think, on the web. Love to show you it on the website, but it's down at the moment for maintenance.
Yeah, I already tell to some people that for me, this championship is like pro series, but like not caring at all about iRating or something like that, you know? Like you don't have too much the pressure, you just race, but it's like, for me, it's a pro series, but without counting it's a pro, you know? Like, because the people are tryharding a lot, like, I really like it, to be honest. So for that, I joined because I know it was like really good people here, and the people who was taking it so serious, like a pro in iRacing. So it's just the mentality here, but you don't need to care too much like in iRacing, you know? It's just more to get funny, but serious, yeah, you know, like.
Yes, a sort of combination of fun and serious that we call fun
Yeah.
serious. Yes.
That's what you mean.
But
Because
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, it doesn't apply to the whole game, that iRacing system. That's why you can take it less serious here. It's only a league, not like multiple leagues.
Yeah, it's
the whole
like
game.
you don't need to care about, okay, I don't gonna send it because I don't want to lose my rating, or you gonna lose money, or I don't know, something like that. You know, you can prepare the race like in a pro series. You can take super serious, but you don't need to mind a lot in, okay, I'm gonna lose money because I race or something. You can race, you can play your cards. So yeah, you can play more like in, compared to iRacing. You know, in iRacing you scare more about everything. So here I would say you get more funny. You know, it's more like, I don't know how to say it, but it's just more funny than compared to iRacing. We can say the pro series. Because in iRacing, the problem is like everyone is tryharding as well, but everyone is trying to be dirty because everyone wants to get the position really, really fast, and everyone wants to take the money basically, and no one cares about we're gonna get a good fight or we're gonna get funny fighting, you know, like side by side. But in iRacing, it's not happening anymore, that thing. So I really like these things, because it's making the simulator better and more funny, you know.
Sorry, being interrupted here. I'm nearly done. Go away.
That's okay. I'll take over for a second. Thank you very much for that interview, Aaron. And it's really good to meet you. I'm very sorry that if you watch back the broadcast, you'll see that me and Ed had absolutely no idea who you were before this. But hey, your reputation did precede you, as people came into the YouTube chat to very quickly put us right. So thank you for showing up, and we hope to see you around again.
Thank you, guys. See you.
That's all right. Take care.
See you. Thank you.
All right. I think that's all we've got time for in terms of broadcasts, in terms of interviews anyway. So I would like to say a very quick thank you to everyone who we interviewed today. Thank you, of course, to GPVWC for putting on such a show, as always. Thank you to Ed Hunter for commentating alongside me. And of course, for taking all of those interviews there, along with Alex Laho, apparently. Not quite sure how that happened, but there you go. Thank you to Remco de Zeeuw, who was the broadcast director who brought you all of the sights and sounds and the stream that you were watching. To everyone who posted in the YouTube chat, kept us company throughout. And of course, make sure that you do drop by next time out when we go racing at, I should have prepared this, what's the next race? It is the Hungarian Grand Prix. And there's no break before then, is there? It's just 2 weeks, right?
I think so.
Good. Okay. In 2 weeks' time, it will be the Hungarian Grand Prix. Take care, and we will see you then. Goodbye.